Map is an adorable game about cartography, finding treasure, and friendship. In this video, we'll be going through solutions to all of the levels, as well as finding all of the optional treasures and some general strategies for approaching the game. So we're applying for a job as a cartographer, searching for the Raven King's lost treasure. That's amazing! You're a fully fledged cartographer and want to join us? That means you could just walk around the island and mark a tree on a map, and all that with just your sense of direction and outline of the island. The basic mechanics are pretty simple. We have to observe our environment and figure out where on the map the item we're looking for could be. In this case, we do get an outline of the whole island, and by observing the shoreline, we can figure out where the tree is, and we just place the marker and check if we're correct. You can have as many redos as you want, there is no penalty. However, if you're going for the achievement of getting perfect placement of all of the maps, you do have to keep retrying until you get it, because you can't then undo your selection if you confirmed it. Awesome, this is amazing. I always hold the map the wrong way around. No wonder we hardly get anywhere. Can you find your way around this island too? I was so bored when we weren't making any progress that I built a sandcastle. Like it on your map and show us what you can do. This island is a bit trickier in terms of the shape because it's perfectly round, but this is where we learn about landmarks, which then appear on our map automatically and help us orient ourselves, which then lets us say where on the island the sandcastle may be, just in between the landmark and the shore. So we place our marker, carefully not to crash the sandcastle. Awesome, that was absolutely insane. You have to join our crew? Yes, we're hired, we got the job. By the way, I'm Billy, leader of Billy's Bunch, the crew that will find the lost treasure of the Raven King. But to follow his tracks, we desperately need someone like you, someone with exceptional cartography skills. To be honest, I've always taken care of that so far. I've tried counting my steps, but, well, I don't know which way is north. I even got some grid paper with a scale, but I think it's definitely better off with you rather than with me. How about it? Would you like to give it a try? Just mark the pile of stones on the beach on your map. So here we unlock our new ability of counting steps, and the pile of stones Billy talked about is right here on this beach. Based on the shoreline, we can tell that it would be alongside this line here, going from this very straight bit of shore somewhere in this direction. But how far in this direction is where the step counting mechanic comes in. So we start from a known point on the map, which is the corner of this little bay, and we count towards the stones. And we get just under 5 steps. It's important to pay attention to not just the counter, but also how filled the little feet are next to the counter, because it tells us the fraction of the step as well. And in this case, we can see that we almost got to 5, so 4 would be short of the count, especially that we can't actually stand on the stones. Then on our map, there is a scale, and it tells us that 2 squares is worth of 10 steps, and therefore 1 square is worth 5. So we basically want to place a marker on the first grid line away from that coast we started on. And there we go. It's perfect. You are absolutely amazing. I have to introduce you to the other 2 members of Billy's Bunch, Bite and Milo. Hello. How may I help you today? Bite is our brilliant translator. She can understand up to 9 languages and is super fast at calculating and solving puzzles. But most importantly, she can read the glyphs of the Raven folk. That is correct, but I don't have enough information to decipher the glyphs. In order to figure out where the next islands are, I need to know where the Cartoglyph is on the map. And that's where you come in. With your help, it will be a piece of cake. The Cartoglyph is a stone cube, almost as big as you, and covered in glyphs. Oh wait, before I forget, just a moment, I'll just wait. There you go. Now you have a compass rose on your map. Cool, isn't it? It's a very basic crayon drawn compass rose, but it will have to do. So at least we know that our map is oriented north is up. However, we don't actually have a compass on our person, so we don't know where exactly we're facing. The Cartoglyph cube is up on this hill to the north of the island, on this little flower meadow. There is a landmark nearby, so we can add it to our map. And it actually provides us with directions as well, so that we can confirm that the Cartoglyph is to the east of it. And now we just need to count the steps towards it, and we should be able to mark it on the map. So that's just over 6 steps, but not significantly so 6 steps should be enough. Because the landmark is perfectly aligned with the grid, we know 5 steps will be here, and then we can see as well on the scale how much 1 step would be. Unfortunately, we don't have any tool to like measure it precisely, but we can do a bit of an approximation and presume it's gonna be around here. There we go. It's perfect. I understand. Next, you have to mark the rabbit burrow on the east beach. Oh, I just saw that. There's a big oak tree right next to it. Wait, I'll draw it on the map for you. Oh, that's very helpful of you. So we get the oak tree added to our map, but we have to go down there to find the rabbit burrow. There's plenty of rabbits to see, that's for sure. They're all very cute. Different colors as well. The rabbit burrow is this little stump with a pile of dirt next to it. The burrow looks very small considering the size of the rabbits, but we're not gonna ask too many questions. So we can see the tree that was marked on the map is right here. And if we look from the tree to the burrow, we also see that it aligns with the tip of this little peninsula here. So we can find the line it is on the map. And actually it still aligns pretty well with the grid alongside this direction. So we just need to use our steps to check that too. Starting at the tree, we get about 4.5 steps. We can also check the other side from the peninsula, because more points of data give us more accurate measurements. And it's about 4 steps from there. So if we look into that, the tree is offset from the grid by about a step. And then for 4 steps would be on the grid by was half, so presumably around here. And that gives us, well, 4.5 steps from the peninsula, so it's approximately here. We can place our marker and check. And this is the perfect placement. Will the rabbit burrow help with decryption? No. I just like rabbits. I decoded the cartoglyph a long time ago. We need to go to the following coordinates next. Cheeky little robot just giving us extra work so they can look at some rabbits. Oh wow, amazing! You really did it. Our first new island. You are incredible. I could never do that. Next, we should look for a starfish family. So starting from the pier where we landed, the starfish family is actually quite a bit into the island. So if we follow the path along through the little gate, we eventually approach this landmark here. We should get it on our map. This one doesn't come with directions, they've been buried in the sand. But then, if we follow it along towards this little ruin, the starfish family is here, next to the corner, which I'm pretty sure starfish shouldn't be just on the sand away from the water, but that's where they are. So we have to use our landmark and the step counting to get the correct position. We can see on the map that while the landmark doesn't show us directions itself, it is once again aligned with the grid on our map. And by the shape of the island, we can tell where the directions actually are. So we're going to be going east of the landmark to get to the ruins. We have to try and be as straight as possible when walking, because then we know that we're on the same direction. So it's about 11 steps to the ruin, meaning we're currently standing approximately here. And then we still have to turn down to get to the starfish family. We're hopefully basically facing south here. And it's about 1.5 steps to get to the starfish. So it should be approximately in this area. It can be difficult to get it perfect in those initial levels first time, but there's no penalty for retrying, so you can always just adjust your answer if you didn't get as close as you thought it would be. A ruin? I knew it! That means Raven City is... It is... oh dear, this is Milo, the third member of Billy's bunch. He's not very good with strangers, but don't worry about it. He was like that with all of us at first. He was actually against taking in anyone else. Right! The important thing is that he's as cunning as a fox. When it comes to history, he's actually already studying with the 8th graders. Yes, we're all children here. This is our children on an adventure. He's our expert on the Ravenfall, and it's thanks to him that we have these maps here at all. So what does that mean now, Milo? How do we proceed from here? I would say, well, if it's okay, can you mark the ruins in the north next? But only if you want to, of course. So, ruins in the north. If we return to the landmark and look north, we can already see the little building above here. So that's what we need to mark on the map next. So now it's not aligned with the landmark, so instead we're gonna have to do it in 2 step counts. So first off we will face west and count our steps until we're aligned with the ruin. So four works. We're there if we're facing north. That means we will be approximately here now. And now we turn north and count again. And we're just at 11, but that's at the edge of the ruin, so probably should add another step or a half to go inside. So approximately between it being 4 steps west and 12 steps north, we should be here. There we go. That's perfect. I think with bigger targets you get more leeway, right? Because as long as it's within the building, that counts as it being the perfect placement. There's something scribbled on the ruins. A treasure map. Have we found the treasure of the Raven King already? We have to dig it up immediately. Shovel. A shovel. Does anyone here have a shovel? Hello there. Oh, Rue. Hello. I heard you need a shovel. I can lend you one on one condition. Oh? What? Really? I want to join your crew. Why? That's none of your business. I'm against it, and Milo probably is too. I'm all for it. Ha, she joins anyway and gives us a shovel, so now we run to the ruin to check out this treasure map, and there it is. It gives us an outline of the island with an X marked for it, and we all know that X marks the spot. So if we look at the shape of it, it's kind of given like 2 little ears. And if we look at the map, we can see that there is a similar shape up here. And so the treasure should be somewhere here. Well, let's go and explore that now. So if we run this way, so by looking around here, we can see that there is kind of a stick out area here, then a smooth curve, and then some outcropping of rocks. So our treasure should be on this little beach. There we go. There's the treasure chest. Are you alright, Billy? It was very unlikely this would be the big treasure. Please don't be disappointed. Disappointed? Fiddlesticks, we have found our first treasure. A sticker box. How exciting. Now you no longer have to draw everything in with a pen. You can also make quick markings with stickers. So handy. We should take the sticker box to the museum and not keep it for ourselves like scavengers. That's wrong. Very well, now you're going to help me. I'm looking for a particular flower. It smells like it's not from this world. It's beautiful and persistent. It's just perfect. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure where it might be. We'll find it for sure. If necessary, we'll mark all the flowers on the island. Billy just signing us up for more work. That won't be necessary. I actually know that the Raven flower isn't one of those little yellow and white ones. Perhaps you will find a flower that is a different color. So now we both have stickers for our map so we can mark things. There's actually more in the box than what we have on the side panel, and we can add them by making them our favorites. However, we get a limited number of ones we can mark favorites. And another mechanic that's been unlocked is the optional treasure. So now when we look around the maps, we may be finding more of those little markings that tell us where treasures are. Although they don't always look like this. They're not always fragments of the map. They can be other types of clues. So this one, if we look at it, it looks basically like a foot, and then the treasure is below. And we can see that there is this sort of foot shape on the coast as well, meaning the treasure should be around here. If we can find this location, because right now we don't even know where on the map we are. So if we look around, there is a ruin made out of basically a grid shape and a tall tower, and next to the tower there is a landmark for us to find. This one has directions, so we can see where on the compass we're facing. And if we take a look behind the tower, there is also a purple flower here, so that's probably the flower we're looking for. Now, because of this grid shape to the ruin, we should be able to align things quite nicely, especially that once again, the landmark is aligned with the grid. So if we count from here to the south, we can see that each of the edges of the ruin is about 5 steps long. And so the flower should be here. There we go. Excuse me. I looked around and I think the corners of the house are hiding a cartography secret. So we should take a closer look at... Oh, we haven't found the raven flower yet. My programmer taught me that it's wrong to interrupt people. It's impolite. You don't do that. Impolite? Me? I just want to... Oh, forget it. What did you want to say, Milo? It's okay. No, really, Milo. You wanted us to take a closer look at something? No, well, if possible, mark the corner of the house with the white stone somewhere northeast of the landmark. So, northeast of the landmark, we get this ruin here with the broken arch, and there is a white stone in the corner. Again, once again, on the grid, and so we can see that it is 5 steps north and 10 steps east from the landmark. So it should be around here. So we place our marker and check. And there we are. We still have 6 maps from Milo, but no further coordinates to locate the next islands. Have you seen a new cartoglyph on the island? Without it, we're stuck here. So we gotta find one. But now that we have a better orientation around the map with our markers, we should be able to go and dig up that optional treasure we saw, because that area should be just around here. Yes, we can see the foot and we can see the beach on the other side. So if we get our shovel, we can dig up another treasure. And we get a sticker of a little rabbit. Now we just need to scour this island for the cartoglyph and any more possible treasures or treasure maps. So if we start at the landmark and proceed west out of the ruin, we can see the cartoglyph just in the forest to the south, right there on this little pile of dirt. It's not in the grid area, so we're gonna have to do some extra work to find out where it is, but it does align with some of the ruin. Although this one is not as nicely straight and placed as the other one. So we know we're at least 10 steps west from the landmark here. So this is on our map. And now going down this slope, we can also count steps. And this is still just about 5 steps, 5.5. So we should be around here when it comes to our map. And then, because this wall comes off at what looked like 90 degrees, we should be facing south now. And then we do another step count. And that's basically 8 steps away. It just didn't quite take over on the next one. So 5 steps is on the next grid line. And then we need 3 more steps. So should be around here. There we go. Says we're 0 steps away, although it didn't quite land on the cube, but that counts as the perfect solution. Okay, while Bite is thinking, Milo asked me to ask you if you could perhaps check a theory he has. He wondered whether all the houses here are 5 steps long. And then he asked me what I thought about it and whether I could ask you if you had seen a house that was 3 steps long. Okay, well that's a very particular request. And we're looking for a ruin that's 3 by 2 steps. And of course we're looking for any optional treasures. So going from the landmark again, if we head north through the particularly big ruin, there is 2 smaller ones right behind it and one that looks actually quite small, and this one is indeed 2 steps by 3 steps. So that's the one we're looking for. So we just need to get it marked on the map. This one's a bit trickier because it's not aligned with the grid in a way that we can see it, right? We can't just keep stepping on a wall and having it align. So I think the best way to approximate it is we have 5 steps to the north going alongside the ruin. Then we have 5 steps going west, but from here it doesn't quite align with the next 5 steps grid. So we have to see how it aligns with the big ruin that is behind. And actually the walls are quite aligned with each other. So if we look through the middle of it, it should be about 1 step in from the wall of the big building. So if we start here, go 1 step in, we're aligned with this window. So then if we make our way through the wall, we can see how deep it is on the wall. And it's basically 1 step. So 6 steps. So far we have 5 steps north, 6 steps west. And then we have to measure how far north it is from this wall on the ruin. We won't be getting exactly there because of the trees and the other building, but we should be able to measure from here. And that gives us 12 steps going to the middle of the building. So here we have our position we measured from the landmark, and 12 steps from here should be around here. So let's place our marker and try and confirm. There we go. It's not perfectly in the middle, but it's close enough to count as 0 steps. I managed to decode the discrepancies in the data. And it almost seems as if the Raven King himself created these glyphs to guide us. He says that only a skilled cartographer can follow his tracks. Awesome that we have a skilled cartographer in Billy's bunch now. He writes that in order to move forward, we must first find a treasure on this island. It is located 13 steps north and 7 steps west of the tower. So we should now return to the tower. It's next to the landmark, but it's not perfectly aligned with the grid. If anything, it's in the middle of a square formed by a grid, right here to the southeast of the landmark. So we can approximate that is around here. Now we can't get inside the tower to measure from there, but we can approximate that it's around 2 steps in diameter, and so we should take 1 step off when we're measuring from the edge of it. So we're going to go 12 steps north first. Unfortunately, there is a doorway in the way, so just inside of this wall, and then 7 steps west is also going to be through a wall. So we're going to align with the door and then just come back towards the wall where we are at 7 steps. There we go. So it's 7 steps and just coming closer to the wall. There should be a treasure somewhere here. We get a new tool. Wow, are the dividers really from the Raven King? That's so cool. Now we just have to find the treasure. Incredible. That belongs in a museum together with the sticker box. Now, on the world map, we see that it was only one of the 3 optional treasures, but we can always jump back in and go and find them. So, for the second clue, if we start at the previous treasure we found right under the foot, there is a little cave here by the inside of this bay, and on it we can see that it says it's in the middle of this 5 grid shape. Of course, this must mean the ruin that we've been exploring all along. There is a pretty good lookout point right above, and if we climb up there, we can see the shapes it makes. If we copy all of the walls onto the map, we can see that there is only one spot that can be in the middle of that grid shape the clue told us about. So it should be right in that square north of the tower. And that's a sticker of a treasure chest for our collection. Now, if we return to the lookout spot, there is actually another clue right there. It's just a group of sticks arranged to show an edge of a wall and an X. And it basically looks like a little perspective puzzle which we can align with the walls we can see from here. So if we jump down and dig in the middle of this square, there is another treasure. And that's a sticker of a tower. And that's everything on this map complete. Rue, shall we go and look for your flower on this island? You know what? How about a picnic with fruit, pancakes and cookies? That always cheers up my little sister when she's having one of her tantrums. Excuse me? Tantrums? Great, then it's settled. Now we just need a great view. Oh, and flowers, because you like them so much. So we're looking for the highest point on the island with a small flower meadow. So now we get the dividers from our previous island. So they allow us to measure distances better because we can use them on the step scale to get a more accurate size. And we can rotate them, which means we can find things easier at angles rather just having to rely on the grid. So let's use those new powers and find our picnic spot. If we just go along the opening from the pier, we actually have to run along the coastline to the edge until we get on a little ramp so we can climb up. And that will lead us to a landmark up here. So we can now see where on the map we are. And then we continue alongside this tree trunk and we find ourselves on the highest hill on this island, and there are indeed plenty flowers here, so I think this is our picnic spot. Now, because this is fairly close to the landmark, we should be easily able to get the distance, but as we can see, this is not aligned with a cardinal direction on the landmark, and so this is where our dividers are gonna come in useful. So first of all, we need to measure out the steps. However, there's also a stake in our way, so we can measure one steps as being the radius of the landmark and then measure the remaining steps to the meadow. So altogether that will be 7 steps. Now, as for the direction, we can see that basically this is the north shore there, and therefore this will be west, and this will be southwest. So what we can do now is take our dividers, put them on the scale, and get 7 steps much better than just eyeballing it. And then we can put it on our compass rose and turn it to align with southwest. And that gives us the best measurement for both the distance and the angle for the meadow. And then we just place our markers at the tip of the dividers and check if that's correct. There we go. Perfect. I'm feeling much better now. Thank you, Billy. That was really delicious. Thank you. Thanks, Billy. By the way, I noticed that our raft has a hole in it. Our raft is leaking? Is it going to sink? Are we going to die? Fiddlesticks. I just need a little bit of wood to fix it. Nothing unusual. I'm sure I saw a stock of wooden planks somewhere around here. Now we need planks to fix our little raft. It's there, just off the coast. So far, it's still floating, but we gotta fix it. Now, the planks, I think, are on this beach over there, near to where we started. This little pallet of wood right in the middle. As for nearby landmarks we can use to find our way, there is this octagonal rock sticking out of the water, and it is marked on the map right here. And then there's also this round island that we can see over there. And that's over here on the map. Now, this is where the dividers are gonna come in with another trick, where we're gonna use a measurement from 2 points to approximate where we are. So we're gonna start from the rock and measure the steps to the wooden planks. We don't need to care about what direction we're going on in terms of the compass for now. And we get about 6.5 steps. So we take our dividers, measure 6.5 steps, and then if we have our dividers out and we click on any of the writing tools, while we spin the divider, it will draw a circle or an arc at that radius. Now, if we measure steps to the little round island, we're gonna get a second distance we can use. So that's just under 10 steps. I would say 9.75. And if we then draw from here, the two arcs will intersect. And in this way, we can basically get a location without having to worry about knowing the compass direction if we don't have a landmark, don't have a compass, because the two distances will only intersect. Well, they will intersect twice, but if they're intersecting twice, we can then use our observation skills to say it will be this intersection rather than this other one they would form out in the water. So we place our marker here. And it's perfect. So yeah, the dividers are actually a really powerful tool to use for mapping things out. Look, Milo, it's as good as new. Phew, that's a relief. Next I would like to take a look at the stone basket with the hammer. Why is there so much stone lying around here anyway? Well, the stones for the houses have to come from somewhere. Actually... So you're saying they mine stone here? Yes. With their wings? Yes? Milo's speechless. Yes, how can birds mine stone? The stone basket with the hammer, it's just slightly more inland from the wooden planks, right here. So we can definitely measure the distance from the planks to the hammer. And that's 8 steps just about. So once again, we can use our divider to mark that out, starting from the spot we marked for the planks. Now we have to identify some other location we can measure from. Now there is a lot of stones in the way, which is gonna make it difficult to use any other part of the island. So we can use another part of the shore here. Like for example, this little tiny point where the water comes in. It is right here on the map, so that's basically something that's easy to mark by just observing that. And if we measure the steps from here, we get just under 9 steps on this point. I think this technique does work better if the points are not as close to each other, because then the circles are not as closely overlapping. But it does still work. We get 1 point over here. The closer the initial points are to each other that we pick, it makes it sort of harder to see where the circles are perfectly intersecting. So then you may have to do a bit more of adjustments. But without better landmarks to use for this one, we just have to deal with this. The Raven people were very advanced for their time. Then the Raven's King treasure must be something incredible. That completes that island, but there is one optional treasure for us to find. So let's have a look around and see what it is. If we hop inside the tower, there is a map and a marker right there on the wall. So we can look at the map and try to figure out where that is. It does show the circle island, and then it shows the coast basically on the other side, somewhere here. So quite possibly it's around this area on the south side of it. Now, we know where that is because we've done a bunch of marking on this beach, and it should be basically at this road outcropping just slightly to the west. So we need to climb up there through the wooden structure then just to get on top of that doorway. And we can use this to cross. And the treasure should be around here in between the trees. There we go. Helpfully, it's on this basically ground patch along all the grass. And we get a little pickaxe sticker. That's the only treasure here, so we can proceed to the next island. Wow, look, Rose, so many flowers. We're definitely going to find your flower here. So what's so special about the flower? The raven flower is known for its perfection, be it its appearance, its scent, or its adaptability. Phew, that must be pretty exhausting. Yeah, maybe. But she can also grant wishes. Wishes, wow, that's so cool. Right? Then I will finally fit in my perfect family. I'll be nice, well-behaved, and friendly. But true, you're already nice and friendly. Okay, she doesn't think so. Anyway, let's get started. Mark all red flowers on the island. So now we get into multiple missions that can be active at any time, and we just get to pick which ones we want to do. So we have mark the red rose bush, mark the red poppy flower in the grass, and mark the red hanging flowers. So the rose bush is right ahead of us, basically running from the pier, but right now we don't even know where the pier is on the map. Then if we follow on with the path, we can find the red poppy flower in the ruin section and the red hanging flowers right here on this building. So we know where they are physically, but we'll need to locate them on the map. If we hop over those little rocks here, we see that there's a tower with a landmark at the bottom. So if we just run to here, we'll get at least that marked on the map to help us orient ourselves. So we can see that it's on this separate island here, which means all of the flowers we're looking for are on this bigger north island. This is going to make measuring steps from the landmark a bit trickier, since we're unable to just go from it in a straight line. Climbing onto high points is also a pretty good way to just orient ourselves, see what's around, any other points we might be interested in, such as this other tower. We can see that it's actually its own point in the water, and it actually exists on the map right there. So we can identify basically the line between that tower and the landmark to help us see where those things are on the island and where other things might be in relation to it. Now, the pier is actually nearby to the tower. So if we observe the shape of the coast here, we can place the pier up on this spot. There is a sticker for that. So that should also help us narrow things down. We can definitely look at how far the red rose bush is from the pier. And that's just about 6 steps. Again, I stopped slightly short of the counter, but you can see that it's basically almost all filled in. So let's use our divider's trick to mark that up. So that's our first reference point for the rose bush. So we need another spot to count from. Unfortunately, this whole shore, it has like a beach below, which means we won't be able to perfectly measure a step from just the edge of some distinct point around here. So we may once again have to go to a closer point from our first point and use this little shape on the beach here and measure our steps to the rose bush. And that's, again, slightly over 6 steps. And this is this point on the map. So if we mark that out and mark this spot here, that gets us perfectly on the bush and perfectly on our head. That's first mission done. So from here we're going for the poppies. Now the poppies are near this perfectly straight bit of shore because it's constructed. So this is up here on the map. But we can't use a corner for it because that will not allow us to align and count steps. So we can say that if we go 1 step in from this top corner, then we can see the poppies, and so we can measure that out with our dividers, which means this is our starting point here. And then we're at 6.5 steps to get into the poppies. So let's mark that out and then look for a second point we can use to figure out where we're at. Now, because we're in between rocks and buildings, there is a nice shore piece we can use. So we may have to use our rose bush for an basically extra step in aligning this. If we look from the rose bush towards the tower, we can measure out 2.5 steps, and from here we can see the poppies. What that lets us do is create a line between the rosebush location and the tower location. So we can mark it out with a line. And then we measure out 2.5 steps. And that will tell us where on that line we currently at, which is on this intersection here. So next we measure from here to the poppies to get our second reference point in distance. Well, it's basically 8 steps then. So from that spot we were standing at, measure out 8 steps, and we get an intersection here. So let's get that all marked up, and that's the second set of flowers. And we got one more to go over there on the wall. So I think we're definitely measuring that from the location of poppies. So 6 steps from the poppies will be around this line. Now for second measurement, if we angle ourselves towards the gate that leads to it and start counting steps, go alongside this log, we just about make it through the door, and we make it at 10 steps to this stone, which we know those stones are about a step apart. So we know we will be a step away from this corner. So if we mark that up, we know this is where we ended up, and we measured out 10 steps this time. So we should have the hanging flowers around this location. So that's the placement here. Now we need to find the 3 optional treasures on this island as well. If we climb around on the arch between the 2 towers, there is a little map showing an X between various tree trunks. And if we just climb on the rocks from there, looking at the area with the tower, we can see that there is the same amount of tree trunks on this little island. So looking at this, it should align with a larger tree trunk and a really skinny one. And we can see those 2 around here, here and here. And so the treasure should be at this location. There we go. It's a tree stump sticker. Next, if we return to where the poppies are and then head inside of the building here through the window, we can see a drawing that shows an X between 2 towers. Well, we know both of those towers already because we've identified them before, and we even have a line that's between those 2. Because we can mark up that line, we can also figure out how many steps is between them, and that should be around 13. If this is telling us that the treasure should be in the middle, then we're probably looking at 6.5 steps from each tower for the treasure location. So once again, we can measure that out, and if we start from one tower, do a marking at 6.5 steps, the treasure should be around here, presumably on the path we can take from the poppies towards the rose bush. And if we dig, there we are. We've unlocked a highlighter. This is actually another one of map marking tools, and we can now use it for our maps going forward. Now we need some further exploration. If we go behind the big building and hop along on some stones here, eventually we're gonna come upon a cat head holding a carrot and a little X right in front of it. And in this case, X toes marks the spot, and we get a cat head holding a carrot sticker. Whatever could those mean? And that's all 3 optional treasures here. On to the next island. That's crazy. There's so many statues. And water. Water is terrible for my circuit boards. But just look at all those red fish. Oh yeah, the fish near the basalt rocks in the water. They're really cute. Oh, by the way, Meadow asked if you could mark the missing statue. Also, he gave me this photo for you. I'm sorry, he's still so reserved. He doesn't have it easy with the other kids at school. They always laugh at him when he talks about the Raven City. Maybe that's why he didn't want anyone new in the crew. So we need to mark the school of fish near the basalt rocks and mark the missing statue, which we did get a photo of to give us a clue for. Well, the islands are fairly small as far as this map is concerned, so let's have a look around and see what we can find. So the statues are right here near the starting point, and yes, one of them is indeed missing, but if we look out into the sea, we can see that it's over there, which means on our map we will need to mark it out in the water instead of on land. As for the fish, if we again look into the water, there is no fish anywhere to be found except for this little area here in this little triangle with a group of fish. So both of those things are out in the water. But since there is nothing marked up here, we're gonna have to use the land as a reference. So we have this little island here that is marked up on the map here. And then on the shore, we get this nice little corner because it's actually the wall of the buildings. So that's 2 reference points we can use, although they're quite close to each other. We can try to use them to get to the school of fish. See how many steps apart are they, and then use our divider to get the location. Okay, so it's 11 steps from the corner. So now we're going further than our original scale, but that's fine. We can always add more steps, assuming the divider can handle it. Obviously, we could have... There is a maximum range on it. Okay, so 11 steps is out here. And then we go out to the little island. And that gives us 9.5 steps. So measuring that out and marking it up. The school of fish should be around here. Now it's important that you have the right mission selected when you do this, because otherwise the game will think you're trying to mark up the other thing and say you're wrong. So we've got the fishes down, and next is gonna be time for the statue. Well, the statue we can measure from this corner of the wall here, and from the fishes basically, because they're now offered as an extra point of reference. So that's just under 11 steps from the wall corner. So now we're talking this top corner here rather than the one inside. But actually we can't measure to the fishes because the water gets too deep and we can't run through this section. So that's not going to help us. So we have to find a path that we can actually go to. Which might be again the little island then, because that stays in shallow water. So that's just over 14 steps. So let's get that on our divider and on our map and see where the lines intersect. Should be approximately where the statue is. So now we've got that marked up. Fishes. We need to still return for 2 optional treasures. Now, one of them, when I was running back and forth to measure where the fishes are, there's actually just an X made out of sticks in the water, and we have already learned many times that X marked the spot, so... Yes, you've got a treasure for me, and it's a paintbrush. Yes, it's a paintbrush we can now use for marking things on our map as well. Then, for our second clue, if we start at the pier and we look slightly towards the right, there is this island separated from the rest, and there is shallow water enough to go through, and there is a little hidden underwater rock which shows us a map to a treasure. Now if you look at our map, we will notice that it doesn't match any land that is currently on the map, so it must be something else. And if we return to where the fishes are and we looked at this section of shallow water, we can actually see that this kind of matches what we saw on that map, right? There is like this round hole around the edges, and then this little bit that goes in right before the missing statue. And so we need to dig around where this hole is near the kind of coast, but not anymore coast, to get the second treasure, a sticker of a little statue. And that completes the map, and we can go forward. Wow! That's amazing. Now, that's what I call a tower. I would love to see it. Could you perhaps mark the tall tower, please? There's the tall tower right there. But to get to it from the pier, there's actually rocks all around, and the path to it is kind of just zigzagging, so it's not straightforward to mark it from where we start. But it is near this bay that's got some distinct shapes and little islands, so we should be able to use those as our reference points. So if we count from this island into the tower, we get just under 9 steps, so we can mark that on the map. Then ideally we will find something on the other side of the tower as a reference point, because I think it's nicer when the places we count from are not so close to each other, because then where the lines intersect is clearer. So we have those 2 quite jagged pieces of the coast and then one slightly more curved. So on the map, I think that should be around down here. So we're gonna start from this rightmost bit, which is here. Because if we start from the other one, the little support tower is in the way, so we won't get as nice of a step count. I mean, we still won't be able to go to the inside of the tower. So we'll have to add about half a step to our count in order for us to be in the middle. So we ended up at 10.5 steps, so it would probably be 11, maybe slightly more. Like, let's try to get a step in here. Okay, it's actually almost a step, so potentially 11.5. So if we mark that up, we do get a meeting point between the 2 lines, and then we can get that tower narrowed down. There we go. Perfectly down the middle. And let's see what we're gonna have to find next. Wow, the ravens could fly there? Flying must be so cool. I think so too. Well, maybe we should take a look at... Did I just see a deer? Where? Where is the meadow that they graze in? Who cares about the stupid deer anyway? It's much more important to find the raven flower. There must be a new flower somewhere around here. Perfect. While we're at it, we might as well gather some wood for my next project. Please mark the X under the bridge. Poor Milo. Everyone's interrupting him. So now we have 3 separate missions we can do. If we look around, the deer are just on this little raised section here across the bay from the tower. The purple flower is across the 2 bridges from the deer, right here. And then the X under the bridge is here near the purple flower as well. So none of them are particularly easily placed in order to measurements from the shore, because they're on top of elevated sections of land or they're in like tight paths. So probably if we can get one of them down, we should be able to use one of them as a reference point for other ones. We might be able to use this coast here, though this doesn't go exactly to the coast. It does to this very distinct body of water, and we can see it on the map. So we are standing basically around here on this section. So that might still be a good enough reference point. And it goes both to the X and to the meadow with the deer. So we can measure both. With the deer, I'm going for like the patch of grass that they're standing around as the middle point, because I'm not sure the extent of it exactly. Yes, here at this flower. So just over 13 steps. And they're somewhere this direction, so this is here. And then we can measure the X, and then we're gonna find second points to use for both those locations. So we get 16.5 steps to the X under the bridge. That's again from this shore here and somewhere more towards the tower in direction. Now all around the deer there is an elevation change and then the shore continues, so it's much harder to measure steps accurately like that. Even though we can go down a slope while we're measuring, the count gets less accurate then. But for the X, it also just in the other direction goes to all the rock wall, and the only kind of reference is that it's on this fork in the road, and then that goes to the shore. So we can try to approximate this, like this piece of the shore, and then we're basically pointing at the tower for this first section of the road. So we would be down here at this little peninsula, and it's looking towards the tower. So approximately this is the path we would be taking. It's not going to be very accurate because we don't have any tools for measuring angles. But if we follow the path, try to stand center on the tower, that gives us 11 steps. So in theory, following along the line we've just marked towards the tower and the 11 steps, this is the path we just walked. And then this path goes to that point alongside the shore. Unfortunately, our dividers are not long enough to quite reach there. But we can try and approximate with it. Draw one line and then go alongside it, see that it does approach the same junction. So in theory, the X under the bridge should be around here. So because of having to measure through like the corner in the path and far away from the shore, this might be one of the places that requires a bunch of adjustment to get it perfect. But the measurements definitely get us close enough for a pass. And here's the final correct location. Okay, well, having the X under the bridge means we can use it as a reference point for the other two. The flower is really nearby, and basically the middle of the bridge here should align with the X. So we can measure the steps to the flower. So that's just over 3 steps. So that will be a range. Now, for another point of reference, we may have to look into measuring it in 2 steps between like here and the pier. So we can measure the steps to get to the edge here, right? That gets us 1 step. And then if we basically fall down and measure from the bottom of the cliff to the shore where the pier is, we get another 8 steps. So together that would be 9. We need to locate the pier in the first instance, but we can see by the shape of the shore here that we should be around here on this section. So around 9 steps should get us to the flower. So hopefully it's somewhere around here. And then just the deer remain. We already have the first reference point, and once again we should be able to use the X location on this bridge to measure the steps from here and get our second reference point. So that's about 11.5 steps. The deer's pushing me away. So they should be somewhere around here. There we go. Hopefully they didn't get too scared by the giant marker falling from the sky. Now, before we leave this location, there are optional treasures to find. Firstly, we can actually see it from the pier right over there on that rock. So if we just run towards where the tower is, we can't do it through water because it's too deep. And go back, look around here. There is a drawing of like the little pole with wings and an X right next to it. We saw this pole near one of our target locations. So if we return where the flower is, we can see it already from here. So let's get our shovel and dig. We get a pen, a fountain pen for our map marking collection. It's red as well, for very important markings. Back to the tower, if we climb the rocks towards this wooden structure here, there is a map on top of it with 3 lines at an angle and 2 squares over them. Now, this shape definitely looks familiar because it's the zigzag path that we were using to find the X and the 2 bridges, which means the treasure should be on this higher up section here. And that gives us a tree sticker. Well, there's definitely plenty of trees to be marked on the maps. For the final treasure, there are 2 wooden planks on the beach that are kinda crossed to form an X. So let's see if there is possibly a treasure buried here. Yes, there is. And we get a little deer sticker. And that's all of the optional treasures here. So we can proceed to the next map. I think we may have gone a little overboard. What do you mean? We didn't let Milo finish what he was saying. He wasn't able to conduct his research on the last island at all. I feel bad. That was wrong. I am wrong. I think you're overreacting now. We need to apologize. I already have the perfect idea on how to do that. We're going to find something super cool and raven-like on the island, and we're going to show it to him. He's going to flip out. How about the city map? We've got to find the city map. I mean, right now, we don't even know that there's a city. How have they already predicted that? So we must explore the island to find it. Now, there's definitely some sort of town that's starting to emerge from the ruins. And if we follow this wall along, there is also a landmark. However, it is broken. So it's not going to appear on our map, but it does give us the direction around the island because the direction stones are still intact on it. For the city map, if we run along south from here, climb the little staircase and then turn around, it's hidden here on this wall behind. It also gives us directions, so we know that the orientation is basically the way we're looking, the way the town is oriented. So we could basically lay this map flat on it and it would correspond. But before we get into anything in the city, we have to place where this map itself is. On our map that has no other detail but just the shore, as it has been the case previously, but here we're obviously on a structure. The structure is kind of jutting out into the sea, but as far as I can tell, we're on the east shore and there isn't anything like straight line here that would correspond to this. And so the map here is corresponding to the shore. There is a little round island just under this building, so we can tell it's this one here. And so the city map must be somewhere west from here, basically aligned with this, so we just have to get our steps. If we look at the structure, we can first measure that the little island is about a step and a half away from the edge of the structure. And then we have to climb back up there to do the rest of the measurement. So here, if we go in a step and a half, we're gonna be basically at this staircase, and now we can measure towards the city map. So that's about 10 steps. And so because we have the grid here, we should be able to just say the map is somewhere here. There we go. Landed right on top of it. So that's first step done. Wow, a map of the city? Do you know what that means? It means that the settlements were much larger than researchers had previously thought. Isn't that amazing? We found it just for you. As an apology for interrupting you. Thanks, guys. This will allow me to prove that the legendary city of ravens did indeed exist. It's all thanks to you, our cartographer, that we've made it this far. Billy is right. As a thank you, I'd like to give you this camera. It's always been a great help to me in my research. If possible, could you help me out again? The next 3 tasks are already on your map. If you could, that would be really kind of you. So yes, we unlock a camera. It obviously lets us take pictures that we will be then able to place on our map as reminders. So lets us save those little clues that we see around where the treasures are hidden, and we can store this map as well. So our tasks now are mark the tower ruin, mark this house, so this very specific shape, and mark the smithy. Well, if we look at the town map, we can see where this house is, and then the smithy is also marked up with this picture of an anvil and shown that it's in this corner here. Same for the tower, it has a picture and it's placed between those 2 long houses. So I think what's helpful is marking out the wall of the city first, because that will give us a good reference point. So we can do that by standing under the city map and measuring how far along it is from here. So we get just over 2 steps to the edge, but obviously the whole thing is also about a step along. So we can say 2.5 steps from the city map should be where like the walkway of the wall is. So that will be along here. Now we can mark a whole line with the dividers. If you align them perfectly south to north, the line does actually fully flash white, so you can tell that this is a line. And so we can make a guideline here of the wall direction. Obviously we have to measure the length of it. Well, if we start along where the city map is, we can see basically where the back of it is. We can measure the distance to the landmark. That's just over 14 steps. So from back of the city map, just over 14 steps takes us to up here. And this will be where the landmark is. We just don't have a marker for it, so we have to just draw something ourselves. So now that we know where this side of the wall is and where the landmark should be, this building here should be the Smithy, and we can confirm that because there are appropriate anvils and tools inside. If we measure from the middle of the building towards the landmark to the south first, we get about 5.5 steps. So that lets us mark the point in the wall we were at, and we can do the same in the west direction. And that's about 5 steps. So that will be from here. And now we just have to make those 2 points meet. So we can extend the dividers slightly and then turn them until they're aligned north to south. So that marks up that line. And then we just mark the point from the south point we were at towards this line, trying to be aligned east and west this time. And so based on that, the Smithy building should be around here. There we go. As long as it's inside the building, that should count. So next, the house with that shape is the one basically above the Smithy on the map, but it's actually west in terms of the direction. So we will be moving to somewhere around here. If we look into the town, this house actually, there isn't much left of it, because it would be this one here, but there is only a corner of it available. But since the Smithy is here, we can use it as a reference point. So if we go from the outside wall of the Smithy towards that building, that gives us like 7 3/4 of a step to get to what would be the middle of it. So we were at the external wall of the Smithy, and this is the range here. So from here we can measure to the external wall. That gives us just over 5 steps, but obviously we have to add about a half to be on the top of the wall. So 5.5 to the external wall. But we need another point of reference on top of the wall in terms of how deep into the town we are. So if we run from the landmark along here, try to avoid the hole in the wall, because if we fall in there, then our step count will be ruined. We get 15.5 to this rock here that we were facing basically when we measured at the bottom. So I've extended the wall here based on the direction from the landmark, and then 15.5 steps takes us here, and about 5.5 from there takes us there. It's not exactly all aligned northwest, because I'm approximating some of the angles, but because again it's a building, so we should be able to approximate it as well, as long as we get inside of it. There we go. It is definitely here, even though little remains of it. And the last remaining thing is the tower ruin. So we saw it on the map between, yes, 2 longer houses, but little remains of it. Just the base. But we can see that it basically aligns with the town map, because that's the back of it. So we can measure the distance from the wall to the tower. So that's 13.5 to get from the edge of the wall here. So probably around 14 from the middle. And we know we're behind the town map, and it was basically going perfectly west. So it should be around here on alongside the grid line. So let's try and mark that up. Got it just on the edge, but that already counts. For the optional treasures in the town, one was basically marked up on the town map, with a little X behind one of the longer houses next to the tower. So if we go to where the tower is, then it's basically somewhere behind this house. Just hop through the walls and let's dig here. We get a sticker for the town walls in case we wanted to decorate the whole thing out. Now, for the next one, if we climb this little hill behind the tower and keep going west into this house all the way, then jump out through the back window and turn around, there is a little clue here. And it's basically marking out a path with step count, so 5 steps, 4 steps, 3 steps, 2 steps. And so starting from here, let's count. 5 steps east, then 4 steps south, 3 steps west, and another 2 steps south, and it should be here. There we go. A little triangle statue with wings. For the next one, if we climb up the rocks to the south of the city and then hop down towards the beach, there is a gate, and next to this gate we see this little plan and marking for a treasure. So we have to find a house that matches this shape and then dig inside one of the corners. So if we hop back to town and then go in the southwest corner, we can see that this house here matches the shape that was given on the clue. It is rotated differently if we look from this direction, but it's definitely the right shape. And so there should be treasure digging somewhere around this corner of the house. Not in the nest, but maybe on the other side here. There we go. A seagull. Not sure you can mark those on the map. Not very static. If we run alongside the city wall, there is 2 pillars which have triangles along them pointing into the town. So one is here, just south of the Smithy, and then another one if we run up north and then alongside the wall. We also have one pointing just past the statue. And so they would form an intersecting line between them. And so if we jump down and align with those 2 pillars and dig here, will we find something? Yes, we will. Another tree. So that's all of the treasures here, and let's see what awaits us in the next map. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Impressive. Not enough flowers for my taste. All these murals, they're all still in really good condition. Impressive. You can literally follow the entire history of the Raven people. Like there, for example. That must mean something. Please mark the stone with the image of a broken pickaxe. Okay, so now we're inspecting some murals. There is a few in front of us here. However, none of them have a broken pickaxe. There is a broken tool on this one. And there we go, there is a broken pickaxe. However, when we look on our map, it doesn't look exactly like what we can see here, right? We got those 3 triangular water shapes, but on here we only get 1.5, meaning we're basically only seeing half of the map. But hopefully this means this whole structure is mirrored and we just have to use the side of the map we can see and reconstruct the one that we cannot see. So we will have to draw where this triangle water feature is based on the ones that are here. So if we take this middle triangle shape and measure the length of this side, we can draw the rest of it if we marked out its length and then just extend the line at the bottom. So we will know this is the intersection point, and then we can draw the line here. We should be able to just extend this whole bottom line since they're all aligned. And then we just have to find the distance between the 2 triangle corners and reflect it on this side as well. Measure the size of the base of the triangle, reflect it here, and then measure the sides, which I think they're equal, so we can reconstruct the triangle on the other side. So that's it here. And then the pickaxe is basically halfway along the side of the triangle. We can measure in steps. So yes, it's basically 4 steps. And yeah, the pickaxe is at 2. So it's in the middle, and then measuring to the edge, we get about 1 step out. So if the side of the triangle is 4 steps long, 2 should get us to about the middle. And then 1 step away from that should be where the pickaxe is. There is most likely a more perfect geometrical solution to marking all this out. You can prove it out much better, but I'm thinking this is around where that pickaxe stone is going to be. There we go. Right on top of it. That group of ravens wasn't very nice. Who knows, maybe they had a good reason. No, stealing is wrong. No excuse justifies theft. Well, actually, no. Oh no. Milo, is there anything else you'd like to look at here? Absolutely. I want to explore everything. I want to see the big mural. No, wait, maybe the small one instead. Or better yet, the statues. Yes, please, mark the large broken statue. I wonder who they're supposed to be. Says there is some murals here, like telling the story of, well, the raven people working their various jobs. But then deeper in, there is a big mural that talks about the blue ravens and the red ravens having some sort of conflict, a border between their lands. But also one of the groups was stealing from the other. As for the broken statue, it is right here in front of the mural. The other side is not broken. The other side actually has a head on. So we gotta figure out where that is. In terms of the structure of the map, and if we look at the edges of the construction here, like we can see that the map only tells us the foundation of the build. It doesn't actually reference any of the land. And so the mural is actually up at the top of the section, and then the raven statues are on alongside this smaller rectangular bit. And they're actually fairly in the corner of it. So we have the side of the map that the broken statue is on. So we may be able to just mark it without having to measure to match. There we go. Landed almost on where his head should be. By the way, where do we have to go next by? Oh, right. I completely forgot to mention that. That was our last map. We're out of maps? We're out of maps. And have no new clues from a cartoglyph either. Do we have to end our adventure now? Fiddlesticks. It'll be just fine. Everyone keep an eye out for the next cartoglyph. Mark the cartoglyph that presumes there is one here. And there actually is. If we look from the mural south, it is in the building to the left of us. But the door is collapsed and we have to find a way in. All the windows have bars in them, so we may have to do a little bit of jumping in order to get in. So we can hop on this adjacent building here and just climb on the walls. Yes, that will get us on top of this wall, and then we can get inside. There's also a clue here for later. So this is on the side of the map we don't have. So we will have to measure out and reflect some things. Well, let's measure how deep this cube is from the door. About 4.5 steps. Okay, so now we need to get out of here and get some external measurements. If we look outside, this house is alongside those 2 rectangular canals. And so we have one on the map here, and the other one will basically be just reflecting it on the other side, like the corners are touching. So on the outside, this building is aligned with this canal here. So we can measure from the corner, see where the door is. About 3.5 steps in for us to be aligned with the cartoglyph. What we can do is extend the line of this rectangular water container and then measure 3.5 steps on it. And then if we take that line and we put it on our compass rose, we can see that it's basically running northeast to southwest as much as the compass rose is done in crayon, which means we are able to reflect it by simply aligning it northwest to southeast. We measured 4.5 steps from the cartoglyph to the door, but obviously we need slightly more because we're on the other side of the door, and take it from that point. So the location should be around here. There we go. That should help us get to more islands. See, everything's fine. We found the Cartoglyph. What does it say, Bite? If I'm reading this correctly, the Raven King is sending us on a quest to find the Garden of the Goddess. He left treasure there for us. Yay! A new treasure chest. There's supposed to be a garden here? Well, let's look around and see where this garden is. So if we climb up behind the mural, near the tower, there is a little garden here indeed with the various flowers. And we're gonna ruin it by digging in the middle of it. We found a hammer. Unbelievable. A new tool. And new maps. But they're so old. They're old, and some of them are even torn. Can you make out anything on them? They really aren't very legible, but this one looks good. We can go there next. But before we leave for the next island, we've got to find all the optional treasures. So we have that one clue we saw next to the cartoglyph, which basically looks like we've got to dig in one of the triangles. There is the small triangle here, all the 3 big triangles at the bottom, although one of them is open, so it's probably just one of the 2 side ones. And it looks like it's the one on the west side of the island that has the treasure. We get a statue sticker. Then the next one, if we go to the west of the island and look towards the rocks, there is a little cave here. And it does have another drawing showing us there's a treasure just off the other side of the build-up area, right? Because if we look at the map outline, it is this corner they're referring to, but it is the reflection of it, which means it will be on this side here. Well, we can just simply count the squares and we'll see that it should be around here on the map. So if we just find this edge of the structure on the other side, we should be able to dig there. So let's run along to the east side, and we can see this kind of angular area is here inside this house with 2 nests, which means the treasure should be on this island here. Because yeah, we're going from the top of that area and to the top of that corner below us. So yeah, around this location sounds correct. And there we go. It's a sticker of the mural. So that's both of the optional treasures here. And we can proceed. Oh, what's going on here? Why does the water look so strange? Is this the perfect opportunity to... Is that a new tree species over there? I have to check that out. What I wanted to say is that this is the perfect opportunity to try out the Raven King's new tool. Milo's getting upset with everyone interrupting them all the time. Sorry. So now we've got a build tool. But in order to build things, we have to actually pick up the things in the world first, so that we have the materials to build them. We're also now in the swamp, which means if we jump into the water anywhere, we will be respawned. So even shallow water means we need to restart, which is why gathering materials to build bridges will be important. So there is a landmark here. So we can see how that fits on our map. There are multiple islands, so we will need lots of bridge building to get through this nasty water. And what we're looking for is the new tree species, which is this big tree over there in the water as well. So if we bird from the landmark, we should be able to reach the tree. So we started by measuring how far away the tree is from the landmark. So that's just over 10 steps to the center of the landmark. This one gives us absolutely no direction, not even a hint on how it aligns on the axis or on the grid. But we can still use our divider to mark out 10 steps all around the landmark. Now we know which island the landmark is on. And so if we measure from another island, we should be able to pin down where exactly the tree is. So if we look at this island over here on the other side of the tree, we see that it has this round hole, which tells us that this is the island we're looking from, and therefore the tree is most likely somewhere here near the turtle drawing. So now we need to build some bridges from here picking a spot that we can then easily recognize on the map. So this edge here will be here on the map. So let's get building. So now we measure out from this side. And that gets us just over 9 steps. And then we just drop our pin to confirm where the tree is. There is also an optional treasure on this island, but to reach it we're gonna need a few more bridges built towards this isolated island over there. So when we reach it, it's quite easy to see. There is an instruction here, and clearly what they're asking us is to build a bridge to a specific spot out of a specific amount of planks, starting presumably here where the instructions are. So we're gonna go 3 bridges up, then 1 to the left, 2 up, 2 to the left, and 1 up. Once we've done that, we basically end up back on the island that we've crossed from. And so the treasure should be near this sandy corner. There it is. And it's a sticker of the bridge. And that's everything to do here. Let's move on to the next map. Also, a whole new biome. We're definitely going to find the raven flower here. Yeah, I think so too. Why don't we check out the house first? Really? Surely it grows in the water, near the square rice paddies. Oh right, of course. That's what I meant to. So in this level we unlock the floor is lava challenges, which ask us to get from a starting point to the end point without touching the ground. However, what is meant by it is you can't touch the ground like the grass, but you're allowed to touch stones and also any structures that you haven't built. So like you can't build yourself a ramp to just get across. But if there's like a pre-built building or a wall, that seems to be fine for those challenges. Now we need to remember to collect the various pieces of bridges as we start exploring the maps so that we have building materials. And what we're looking for are square rice paddies, and there are a few of them here, visible from the same island where we've completed the floor is lava challenge. 2 of them are completely empty and underwater, so let's try marking up the one that actually has something growing on it. So we should be able to say where we're looking from based on the shape on this island, but actually the map here is missing a piece. If we look at this southern shore here, we can see that this is this piece of this island near the rice paddies. And so this marks the 2 rocks we were jumping on, and our pier is here all the way to the west. But that means the part of the island here, this peninsula reaching out towards the rice paddies, it's actually missing from the map. So they're adding an additional challenge where we have to approximate the land, or we have to start from a different place, right? Because we can use this piece of the land here. This one is visible to us. What is also on the map is those 2 little islands there across the water. So it might be wise for us to build a bridge basically from this side here to one of the islands across the rice paddy we're trying to target. Because that should make the measurements a bit easier. So now we're on a bridge above the little island, and we can measure the steps to the rice paddy that's also under our bridges. So that gives just about 5 steps from this top island here. And then on the other side, it's also about 5 steps to this side of this other island. So we can see where the lines meet, but it's not super accurate, probably because of the fractions of the step. But we can also draw a line between the point we're at now and between the island and see where all of that intersects, and that should give us better approximation of where we need to be placing the marker. So if we go for it right here, yes, we get it on this rice paddy, well, on our bridge, but it still counts. I have a task for you. For me? No. Oh, no, of course not. For our cartographer, obviously. Sorry, anyway, could you please mark the broken flag? So let's have a look for the broken flag. There's definitely flags around here. And there's more of those floor is lava panels. And more bridge panels for us to collect. Oh, and there's the broken flag. Just lying on the ground here. However, if we look at the map, we were on this island here. That's where that house is there. And then the island we're on now is missing from the map completely, right? Not even like a partial trace of it. It is completely gone. And so we need to figure it out from nearby land where this flag is going to be rather than the island it is on. Well, fortunately, the little rocks around the islands are marked on the map. So we should be able to once again use them as markers. And we can build bridges so that we will be able to count steps from the rock towards the flag without falling into the swamp water. So we can get multiple points of reference here, just measure the steps and mark those out on our map. So I got it measured at around 3 to 4 steps from the rocks here. And so the approximate location of the flag should be around here. And there we go. Even though the island isn't marked, doesn't mean we can't find it. You should have seen the look on your face when you couldn't find that piece on the island on the map. Well, joke's on you, Roo, because that's not even difficult. How did I know that piece was missing? Milo told me. Thanks, Milo. Sorry. You shouldn't play pranks on people. That's wrong. If your parents hear about this, they'll be ashamed of your bad behavior. That's the only story locations we need to find, but there are 2 optional treasures on this island. For the clue to the first one, we need to hop over into the house with the flag we can see from our starting position. But instead of going on the inside, we're gonna take those boards here all the way around to the back. And here at the corner, we can see a little clue for a treasure location. Now, what this clue seems to be telling us that the treasure is between some sort of spear or a sign and a vase. So we should look around for that. But quickly before that, if we look at the sign over there, we can see that this is Shrek Swamp. Back to the island. If we look around, we can see what looks like the sort of spear we were looking at when looking at the treasure clue is those little posts that are around here with the diamond shape on top. So now we should just be able to find one that's near a vase. And if we return near our starting pier, near this gate here, and near this piece of the island that was missing from the map, there is a vase in the water on the other side from it. And so the treasure should be on this piece of land here. There it is. And it's a sticker for the floor is lava little challenge. Now, for the second clue, if we look around from the house we got the first clue, there is another house over there beyond the flag that we marked on the map. If we build some bridges, eventually there's a way to get underneath and reach this broken piece of floor to get inside of this house. And from here, we can see this broken wall in the back that has another clue. We can use our camera to zoom in further, and that appears to show us a house and then steps, and the treasure should be on one of the steps. In such case, the first house we were looking into, it is in front of this sort of graduated land with steps in front of it, and so the treasure should be on the second step down from where the house is. Although we don't know exactly where in terms of depth, so we need to dig around here, maybe on this muddy area. There we go. Nearer to the edge. We get another tree sticker for that. And that's both the treasures on this island. And so we can move on. Right. I think you've gone a bit too far. No, she's right. I have to try harder. Roo, I have I have to be perfect. Rue, I have to find the raven flower. Rue, I have something important to say. I was digging through the big book and found a picture of the raven flower. What? Oh. Thanks, Milo. I'm sorry. What? Really? Thanks, Milo. Now we're definitely going to find the raven flower. I'm helping too. The last island inspired me to make our very own Billy Bunch flags. Now you can mark locations on the island and pinpoint the raven flower in a blink of an eye. So that's a new build object for us that we will be able to use to help us along in finding locations. So our quest is basically mark the raven flower. We do get a scribbled picture from the book so we can recognize it. So this is not purple. It is more of a blue-green color. There are a few ruins around this island that we can explore, including raised kind of treehouse sections. And there is a landmark underneath this bridge here. So that tells us, once again, we are on a missing piece of the map here. But if we explore further, another place of interest is this house here with a blocked door. And if we remove this piece of wood, we can see that the raven flower is inside of here. So we found what we're looking for in the world, but we need to get this marked on our map. Now this house is basically out in the water on its own kind of stilt-based foundation. So it's not going to be on a piece of land we can see on a map. The closest piece of land we have is this little dock that they've built on one of the islands. And looking at the shape of it on the other side, it is quite distinct. So we can see that it's actually this piece here with those shapes around the coast. And then the straight edge on the other side, because that's the pier. The landmark we found is over there, between those stone structures. So we can also then tell more or less the direction the house is going to be, because we have to look away from the landmark. Which means we're looking at something towards this direction. If we can get a bridge going from the corner of this dock, that would give us a pretty good point of reference between here and the flower and for counting steps on that path. So with a new bridge in place, we can measure steps from the flower to the corner of the dock. And that's just over 9 steps. Now we will need a second point of reference, somewhere where we can walk from on bridges at least and still get a fairly straight line. There isn't a lot of that because the doorway obstructs the way. Plus we also have to deal with the fact that a lot of those nearby islands further on, they're not on the map at all, so they're not a good reference. So I think I'm gonna try to get another bridge going from this point on this island instead. So we can just about get this angle. We're slightly off the center of the flower, but hopefully it won't be too bad for pinning it down. And so we just get our steps measured. And that's just over 12. So going from this piece of the island, we mark it up. Again, the circles are quite close to each other, so the intersection point is thicker. But hopefully we should be able to pin it down somewhere here. There we go. Right on that flower. What is that? It's so ugly. And it stinks too. That can't possibly be the famous raven flower. I'm afraid it is. But that thing can't possibly grant wishes. Does that mean I will never be perfect? Rue, don't worry. It's not that bad. Not that bad? Yes, you're funny and friendly, and we like you just the way you are. I'm going to my room now. But, Rue... Billy, I think we should give her some space. What we really should do is find the next cartoglyph. But I was just about to show her my new project. I thought it was so cool that the ravens can fly. So I worked on a glider myself. And now Rue doesn't even get to see it. Billy, you built a glider? That's unbelievable. glider. You can now use the glider by pressing jump twice. So now we can use our map to fly around or glide around, which should actually be pretty helpful for getting around above this nasty water that keeps killing us. But next we've got to find the cartoglyph somewhere on this island. There is another house opposite to the house where the raven flower was. And there is a pathway here we can climb up on. And we can now glide over to the house. No even need to build. And if we look down, here's the cartoglyph. Now, it's inside a building and covered by walls from all the sides, so our view will be obstructed. But there are a few things we can look into here. First of all, in front of it, there are actually those wooden panels that we build our bridges of, and they stick out of the house. So if we go out here, we can see where the panel is sticking out. And so we can add additional panels here. While we won't be able to just walk into the house on them, we can now see that the cartoglyph is 4 panels away from us, and so we can measure that distance separately, and we will know how far away from this piece of the land it is from. And this piece of the land actually is on the marked map, because if you look at the shapes, this is where we are. So I've built my 4-panel long bridge so that I can measure it. And that's just about 6 steps long. I slightly went off it, so I think 6 is fine. And so we need to approximate where the middle of this bridge falls in this little tiny bay, and then mark that out with the dividers. And now we need our second point of reference. If we go to the island on the side of the house, we should be able to build some panels forward and to reach the cartoglyph. Like, we have no control over how high the bridges are built other than they attach to whatever nearby structure there are, and we can't angle them in any way. Now, we can build a bridge here that will basically go into the house and go over the cartoglyph. It's right underneath us here. We can also use the new flags to basically mark out on the bridge where the point above the cartoglyph is, so we can see it better. Now, the one slight problem with this is that this isn't a very distinct point of this island. If we look at the map, this is around here, around this shore. So we know that it's past this rounded edge, but there isn't a distinct point here, so we can only kind of trust measuring our steps. Because the cartoglyph is at the edge of the bridge, we just go from the edge and we can measure the steps here, which is basically just 1 step under this curve. So it's approximately here, and we're kind of trying to match it with the direction the shore is heading. Unfortunately, the more kind of intermediate steps we make between our measurements, the least accurate it gets. So now we just measure the step from where we can best say we're above the shore towards the glyph. So that's about 3.5. So we placed the dividers here because we were starting from the shore. We just used this other line for helping us place them and mark the 3.5 steps. And so the cartoglyph should be approximately here. There we go. The marker didn't fall down in there, but it counts as the answer. Here's another discrepancy in the code. To decode it, we need to complete the map again. It looks like the Ravenkin left out a few pieces of the island on purpose when he drew up those maps. He must have really wanted to hide his treasure well. Yes, and we have to do our best to find it before evil treasure thieves steal it. With Billy's help, we were able to sketch the missing pieces of the map. Now all you have to do is place the missing pieces of the island on the correct spot on the map. So now a new type of quest where we get a piece of land and we have to figure out where that piece of land is based on the shape of it and where we're going to place it. So we know that there are a few aisles around where we saw the landmark and what we can see from here. And looking at the shape, I think we're looking at this island here. So it's behind the landmark and it has this 4-pointed post on it. You can glide over here, to check out the shapes. Yeah, this is definitely the kind of top bay shape here. And so that should be the one. If we climb back on top, we can sort of scout the area, figure out what we can see, because there are two pieces of land up here that are marked. And if we look out, it looks to be those two further islands behind the island we're looking for. So that at least gives us some sort of boundary towards this northwest side. Now, towards the southeast side, we know the landmark's over here. And so we can look for the place where, on the land where the map ends. So looking from the landmark at the shape of the coast here, this spot here near the tree appears to be where this big bay with the tree starts. And so there's actually an extra small island here first that is also not on the map before we get to the island we want. But at least we approximately know that we will be placing it somewhere here, between the landmark, between this bay, between those two top islands. It's just narrowing down that position is what's important. So from our target islands, we need to build some bridges. Bridges towards those north and west islands so we can get some good approximation of how they surround this place. So we can measure from this tip of the north island to our target island. And that's about 3 steps towards basically this piece on the shore. So that's our first marking. But obviously we don't know exactly our heading, so that's just an approximation for now. Now if we go to this west island and measure between this tip and then this tip on this island. So it's from here towards that tip over there. Let's get some bridges going. So it's covered by the bridge, but the tip is under us here. And we measure from here to here, just under 4 steps. So with both of those distances measured out, we can basically try and fit this island in a way where those 2 points we've identified where we measured the steps to are fitting between those 2 arcs. So we know from this side we ended up around here on the island. We can't draw on it, so I can't mark it up. And that would tell us that the heading was approximately this. And from this island we were measuring to this tip, so that would give us this heading. And now it fits at those distances from both sides. If we want to be extra sure, we can build another bridge between those 2 tips and measure them as well. That goes through the other south island that isn't marked, so just need to take that into account to not start measuring too early. We want to go to the tip near the tree. And those ones are at just under 6 steps apart. So if we draw that out, it just around touches this area. I'm slightly further into the island than just the edge, which would make sense with it overlapping the line. So I think this location's pretty good. So I think it's good to submit. And once we're happy with our positioning, we can continue. There are 2 optional treasures on this island, so let's go and grab those clues. First one is near the house with the cartoglyph. If we go to the island on the west side and then look down from the northwest tip, there is a little sunken map drawn on a rock. What that shows us is 5 distinct shaped, like islands of some sort that we can find, and then a treasure will be between 2 of those. However, it has to be not in the water because we can't go in this water. So another possibility is, like we can see here, islands can have those rice paddy fields, and that could potentially be what those markings mean, because then we would be digging on land between the pieces of water. But this one only has 2 of them, so we have to find an island with 5. If we return to the landmark and then head east, we can see this island here with giant tomatoes and more rice fields. And actually there is 5 of them, and the shapes are matching to what we saw on the clue. And therefore the treasure should be here between those 2 fields. And we get the sticker of the raven flower, so we can mark that on our map if we want to. Second clue is up upon the tree platforms. If we go above those rice fields we were just getting a treasure from, and around the back. There was a stack of wooden pallets here, but upon destroying them all, there is a little map on the bottom, and it shows us another shape with an X on it. If we look at the map, it's unfortunately none of the islands that are on our map, so we're gonna need to go around and look. The 3 platforms are a pretty good observation point for us to get a good look at the islands. And actually, if we go just slightly further west, we can see that this unmarked island that we were measuring across before, it does match the shape from the map, and particularly this bottom section here should be where that treasure is. And there we go. We get a sticker of a flag, and that's all of them. That went smoothly. This way we'll definitely get to the treasure before any bad guys do. Let's go ahead and complete the next island map right away. Well, there are apparently now bad guys that are trying to get our treasure. And to prevent that, we need to place this little island on our map. And we need to place this little island on our map. And we get almost nothing on our main map. Just a little bit of land and a house on it. So we will need to take a good look around to figure out where this is. Because there is actually quite a bit of land that we can reach here. We have lots of smaller islands, tree houses, and further buildings. Well, if we can climb onto the tree platforms, that should give us a good view of the area. Climbing up here on this bridge, we can see our pier. And actually we can see those 2 swirly shapes with a straighter bit underneath. And if we look at our map, this matches the piece of land that we do have on our map. This puts our pier at around this location. So that should at least give us a starting reference as to where we are to begin with. That means that the house that it's marked up on our map to begin with is this ruin right underneath us. Right, the whole house isn't even here. Now that we've oriented ourselves, we can look for the islands that we're missing from the map. And if we continue on here towards the taller building and then look down from this broken bridge, we can see this island down here with a round hole in it. And that appears to match pretty well with the island that we have from our first quest. But we will need to figure out all of the surrounding land first, because it's not marked on our map. For the second island, if we go back to the broken house and then head between those 2 buildings, eventually we will come through this tree and see this little island here with a tiny dot underneath it. And if we look at that quest, we can see that this is basically the shape we are looking for. So once again, it will be placed somewhere further out into the field, somewhere along that destroyed house, right? Because we can see it from here, but we don't know at what exact distance just yet. If we keep heading further out from this island, there is also a landmark over there, so that should help us orient ourselves a little bit more. So if we get that collected, we can see on our map that it's all the way on this island here. So yes, the island we need to add will be somewhere between here and the destroyed house. We can, of course, try to build a big bridge, but we need to collect enough bridge pieces to do that. So I think we can get extra points of reference for narrowing down the position of those islands if we try and reconstruct the house that is on our map, because we can understand how big it originally was by using our dividers basically in the reverse way to what we were doing previously. Instead of measuring steps and putting them on the map, we will measure the side of the house, put that on the step scale, and we can see that this side was about 6 steps. Same for this side, and we can measure all of the walls like that. Once we have those measurements down, we should be able to use our flags to mark out the house on the actual island. So this side should be 6 steps long. So we just place that flag where that wall would have ended. And then the same for all the other sides. So now we've got flags outlining where approximately the walls of the house would have been. It's not perfect because it's hard to measure straight angles without any additional tools in the world, but it's closer than just having that one corner out in the distance. So now we can get some approximation of how this island we're looking to place aligns with the walls of that house, especially the two walls down here. Like we can see that we can align with them from this island, so we can get the orientation our placement should be heading in. So now if we extend the wall lines to basically make them longer, we can get a sense of which direction the island should be going at, not yet distance. But basically we can see that the inner wall somewhat aligns with this dip here, and this stick out section at the end aligns with the outer walls here. So that lets us place it alongside those lines here. Now if we add some bridges, we should be also able to measure out the steps. So let's get those step counts and try to align this island. So it's 5.5 steps to where the corner would approximately have been. And then the same for the other section. We get 6 3/4 steps. So putting those two distances on the map and then pushing the island to align with them, that should now give us the placement of it. Great. Let's go do the other one. The other one, as we already said, is between the house ruin and the landmark. So that will be the two things we're going to use here. So of course we're gonna start with adding some bridges. Unfortunately, none of the shore feature here are gonna help us because they're also not on the map. So I've built one long bridge that goes from the landmark to the corner of the house we've been using so far, and I put a flag for where the tip of the island we're looking for is. Again, that should help us with measuring out those steps from two points and getting a placement. So it's 10.5 steps from the landmark to the island. And then just under 13 steps to the corner of the house. So we can get both those distances marked out on the map. And we can see that they made on this corner here. So that means the tip of this island we need to place will end up somewhere around here. Now, if we want to be more accurate, we can try another bridge that will basically touch this bottom little island, and that should help us make it a bit more accurate. So now we're going from the little island that's currently under this bridge, so I added a flag, to the landmark to see how many steps that should be. And that gets us about 11.5. And we can see that if I draw that arc here, it will nicely go through the middle of that island. So our positioning here should be pretty good. So we've got both of the islands located now. According to the cartoglyph, the Raven King wants us to mark the center of the kings. I wonder what it means. And why the center? Like the middle between the two kings. So there are statues. There is one king statue here in the little garden of the house. And then behind this tower building, there's another statue. Although this one's broken and cracked, but you can see there would have been a matching one. Now, the piece of land with the garden is not on our map. But this island, if we look at the shape of it, is kind of shaped like a bird itself, this being the head and the beak. And so we can see that it actually exists on our map here. This is where we are. And so we can say where this broken king statue is, as it should be approximately here. But now we just need to do with the fact that the tower building is in the way of us just doing a straight measurements between the two statues. What we can do is climb the 3 platforms And then from here, use our map glider to glide towards this little ledge. And that lets us go onto the first floor of the building. I mean, we could have also done a glider to any of those doors. So whichever way works, we can get inside. And what that lets us do is extend the bridge on this level, right? So we can build towards here until we're above the statue. And then we can build towards the other way till we're reaching the other statue. And then we will be able to basically tell how far apart they are. Because those planks snap together, this helps us guarantee that they are in straight line when we build those bridges. You can also do 90-degree angles with them, so if you really want to make sure your angles are all correct when you're trying to do things like recreate a building, that's one way to approach it. So now we get the step count between the two kings. And that's about 20 and a half. Gotta add a bunch on our dividers. Okay, and then if we put it where we approximated the king statue, we can draw this arc and say the other king is gonna be somewhere here. Now for a second reference point for this king, we can use the bottom of the island that we previously placed on the map, because it is visible from here and it's quite nearby. We just once again gotta build some bridges. So from here, the edge of this island, we can measure out that it's, well, just under 8 steps to get to the side of it. So probably 8 steps is a good approximation for actually the middle of the statue. So we add that to the map, and that gives us a position of where the second king statue should be, but we're looking for the middle between the two. We can use the dividers to mark the line between them. And we know that the distance of them was about 20 and a half, so just over 10 steps from each side should do it in terms of the middle. And so with those approximate results, because there was a bit more assumptions on this one, the middle between the two kings should be somewhere around here. There it is. It landed on my bridge that I built. Tells me I was right about that line. I see. We should mark the center of the kings, because that's where we're supposed to dig up treasure now. Treasure? I wish Rue could see this. Well, good thing I left that bit of bridge there then, because I know I just need to go underneath it and dig. And we get a new item, because this is not a sticker. Well, I presume we're gonna learn about this new item in the next map, but before we leave, there are 3 treasures to find here. So let's get to the clues first. If we climb to the 3 platforms once again, cross the bridge and then glide across to the tree house, we can go to the inside and then climb on platforms behind the tree it's on. And here on the wall, there is a marker showing treasure next to 2 round towers, and if we look out this hole in the wall here, we can see 2 round towers there. So the treasure might just be next to them. Just glide down. There is another floor's lava challenge there. So if we just hop on down there and dig here, we should be finding something. It's a sticker of those giant tomatoes. The next clue requires some more gliding around. So if we go from the tree house and glide across to the middle platform, we need to glide across to those platforms over there, because there isn't any other connection to get there. To make it easier, we can extend this bridge or just build a bridge completely across if you don't want to glide. And then we just run across to the other ruin of a house all the way at the end of this platform. And there is another marker here. And there is a similar shape that you may recognize from our adventures earlier in this map. So let's return there. So if we return to our house reconstruction, the treasure should basically be on this outer corner where the walls didn't reach. And here it is. 2 bird statues. Now, this final one took me quite a bit of time to spot. Climbing on the tower near the king statue, we can go up further onto the next platform. And when we get there, we can look over the edge, and there is this little underwater section of ground, and it has 2 crossed sticks on that land. Although I'm not sure we'll be able to dig there, considering it's in the water, but let's glide down and see. Doesn't seem like it. So looking at the map, actually what this looks like is like the exact replica of the island we placed on the map before. So is the X here just pointing out a spot in a different part of the map to us? Well, that's an easy thing to check. Just a short glide away. The glider does make movement across this map so much easier. Okay, so based on that, the treasure should be around here. There it is, an exclamation mark sticker. And that should take us to the next spot in our adventure. Telescope. Whoa, cool. Well, yes, but I've been thinking about it. I think the way you treated Rue was wrong. Because of you, she's locked herself within her cabin for several islands now. I did something wrong? Yeah, you said some really mean things, and now she's beating herself up for not meeting your expectations. That's correct. She doesn't meet my expectations. Wow. Harsh. But that's not the point. In our group, we treat each other with respect and understanding. Understanding? Yes. Understanding that we aren't perfect, that we make mistakes, that we do something wrong sometimes. I need to think about that. I'll write down the next objectives on the map. So, does that mean we can try out the telescope now? Yes, let's try out the telescope. Use the telescope to measure distances from afar. So that lets us just point and see how far things are. So, no more step counter. I mean, there might still be step counter if we cannot see something. But sounds like that will help us immensely to make things a little bit faster. So, we've got our objectives, 4 of them all at once. Mark the vessel filled with water. Mark the goddess's shrine. Mark the center of the tallest tree stump. Mark this tree stump. Very specifically one with an axe in it. So let's go explore, find where those things are, collect some wooden planks. Although I'm not the biggest fan of the fact that you have to do that every single time on every island. So going on this big tree trunk, we can see our pier from here. There is this very small collection of islands. And if we look on our map, it looks very much like this section here. And by the way, this map is very empty, right? We've basically got this group of islands I was just pointing out, and then this one island here. All of the rest of it, of course, the fallen trees, like the ruins of buildings, none of that is marked. So we will be doing some heavy work trying to narrow things down here. And also, as I was saying, the telescope is nice, but the big tree trunks are probably gonna mess with our visibility. Looking out from the small islands, there is a little structure over there, which might be the shrine, maybe? Because yes, it looks like there was a statue here, and potentially it's something that we could call a shrine. Sometimes when there are no pictures, it's a bit harder to tell what they're asking us to mark. One way, if you can't at all figure out what are they asking about, is like you can't just drop that marker anywhere. And then if you have all the default settings, it will point towards the thing you're actually supposed to be marking. Like, it's obviously not the intended way you're supposed to do those things, but if you're completely lost, it may help. Okay, so we have this other piece of land here on this side of the tree trunk. So between those two, there's actually 2 sections of big logs that are gonna be blocking view if we're trying to see them from each other. Further along, there is this trunk here with another one of the Flora's Lava games. But if we look back towards our raft, there is a tree trunk with an axe in it. So that's likely what we're looking for one of the quests. And then potentially the tallest tree trunk is that thing in the distance there. Because obviously we're dealing with quite huge trees in this area. And so that would make it a pretty big tree stump. There are even platforms leading us to the top of it. But there is nothing up here specifically other than we're on top of it. However, if we look down into this tower, there does appear to be a landmark. So that should give us an additional point of reference. And I just saw a little map on the back of it. We will get to that later. So that helps us locate where the tower is on this map as well. We're not looking for it, but at least that's something we can see from far away. So now we're just looking for the filled vessel. So as far as filled vessels go, going back further beyond this building, there is a pot that has water in it. When I saw vessel, I was thinking maybe like a ship vessel, but there aren't any other than a raft. So maybe a filled pot is more accurate. What I'm thinking might be a useful thing to do is placing flags on all of those spots so that we have a better chance of seeing them from each other, because as I said, there's quite a lot of obstruction and visibility. A trick for getting flags higher up than just ground level is if we climb on a wall, we will be able to build bridges at this height. And then if we position ourselves above the object we're trying to mark down, we can place the flag here. And now we have flag that's marking that location, but it should be visible from much further away. And it will float, so you can even take the bridges away. That's nice in terms of visibility, although in terms of measuring with the telescope, I assume it's going to have some drawbacks in that obviously an angle at which you're looking at something adds to the distance you're measuring, so you have to take that into account. But at least that means we can now see that flag from way across the map, rather than it being obscured by the building like the vessel itself is. So now I have my floating flags at my various points of interest, and I also put one here on this island with basically what looks like a face for extra measurement purposes. I think this vessel might be the easiest to measure out first. We do have to build some bridges to be able to do things across the building, but we can't basically get a bridge to above the island because it is on the map. So now if we stand on this bridge above the edge of the island, we can just use our telescope to see how far away the flag is from us. So we get 7 steps, and we're on this section of the island here. Now we don't have a good direction yet, so for now we're just mark it all around that it should be in this range. So as an option here, we can try and return to the landmark and measure from there. Although again, the height here becomes an issue like I was saying before. So I may try and place a lower flag as well, just in the vessel, to try and have a more accurate measurement where the angles are not too extreme, but we'll see what we're able to see. We can see the bottom flag from here, but not if we stand in the middle, so we're gonna have a little bit of inaccuracy. So it gives me 15.3 steps. But be careful, because slightly below is just catching that log, and slightly above is catching the tree behind. But I think 15.3 therefore makes the most sense. So if we mark that out, we get the 2 intersection points again. But we know we were standing on this edge of the island and looking away from it, and therefore we're looking at this intersection point lower down here rather than the one on the other side of the island. So if we pick the vessel mission, then we can try to get that one placed. And that is indeed the location. So the telescope is working really well in combination with the flags. So that gets us our first additional point of reference that we may be able to use, as well as the landmark. As we're by the tree stump, let's see if we can get any resolution here then. The one other problem I predict with the spyglass is that we will be able to measure quite big distances, but then our dividers will be too short to get that measurement. So from the tree trunk, we can indeed see the flags we placed over the vessel. So let's see if we can measure that out. We get about 25 steps from there. Also, now our dividers actually display the step count, so we no longer need to use this scale there, do it multiple times for larger sizes. No, just set it to whatever size, including fraction. Unfortunately, though, on this map, with this scale, 24.3 is the max we're getting. So we can't actually measure the 25 steps easily with our tools. We can measure to the tower, but that will be the edge of the tower, right? Not the middle. So it's 9.3. So far, adding about half a step for the inside of those things has worked. So it would be around 9.8 to the center. So we can mark that out. Now, going from where we are in relation to the tower, in relation to the vessel, and in relation to the island, the tree trunk will be somewhere around on this side of the tower and the landmark. But now we have to solve for some other point. Because, yeah, as much as we can see the vessel, it's too far. The island that's near the vessel, it's obscured by this tree there. So we can't easily get a measurement from there. We can see a little bit of the other islands, but obviously there is quite a big height difference. So let's see if we can build a giant bridge from here to those islands so that we can get an easier measurement. So now I'm right above this little headphone looking island, so I should be able to measure through the flag in the tree trunk. That gives me 19.9. So we're 19.9 away from this island. And if we mark that out and look at the intersection, that should give us the location of the tree trunk. So let's drop a pin on it. And there it is. So that gives us a second reference point we might be able to use. It should work with the shrine. I think the two can see each other. But once again, due to the height, I'm gonna go with building another big bridge. So now I'm above the shrine. I can measure back towards the tree trunk flag. That gives me 22.7. That's still within the reach of our dividers. And it should be somewhere this direction. Now if we jump down, we can measure from the ground level or from the shrine level to the flag I placed on that group of islands that kind of looks like a face. And we get 14.2. So the flag is in this middle island. And 14.2 gets it here. So if we mark that out, the shrine is somewhere all the way out here. There we go. Just the marker landed on that bridge because I placed it perfectly above it, so didn't even reach me down there, but the location is correct. So now we just have our tree stump with the axe remaining. Hopefully we've got enough reference points to use. So standing on this tree trunk, we can actually see a bunch of the flags we placed. So this one right behind here is the one on that little island, and it gives me 20.4. That's hopefully the flag and not the stump. It drops to 16 if I go down, so 20.4 it is. So that's still placed there, and then 20.4. Can mark it out. It's gonna be somewhere there's direction. We can also see the one for the vessel. It's slightly higher up, but hopefully not too crazy of an angle. That's 28.2. That might be way out of range. Yes, that's way out of range. But actually, we can see the island here that's near the vessel, so if I place a flag here, that should be an easy measurement. So actually, if I just stand on this edge of the island here, and I can measure that it's, I guess, 20.4 to the edge, 20.7 to the axe. The axe is more central, so we're going from around here, and then 20.7. So let's mark that out, and that lets us know the tree trunk should be around here. Indeed, it is. There is only one optional treasure here, and we've already saw the clue when getting this landmark checked in. Because yes, there is a map here, and it's on a very familiar looking island. So if we just skip our way over to there, it should be on this nose island that we already got our flag on. There it is. Another statue sticker. And now, what's going to be our next challenge? Because almost no map. That was quite an adventure. Hi, Roo. I wanted to apologize for what I said. Apparently it's okay to play pranks on people after all. No, it's not. Oh, good. You agree. But I find it hard to always be well behaved. I'm always getting into trouble. At home and at school, I can't do anything right. I just wanted to find that stupid flower, but it's fake, just like me. I wouldn't say that. The raven flower might not be able to grant wishes. It doesn't look particularly pretty, and well, it smells bad. But to the raven people, it was very special and important. As far as I can tell, they planted it at their memorial sites and shrines. Exactly, and just as the raven flower was important to the raven people, you are important to us. So you don't mind if I'm a little sassy sometimes? I like that you say what you think. It's what I love the most about you. And your pranks don't bother me either. I actually think they are pretty funny. Besides, it was the Raven King who didn't put the island pieces on the map to test us. See? Thanks, everyone. So they're all happy again after they're aligned on what they believe in. And here we are in this ruined city of the Raven people. And we've got a map that looks like a whole map of a structure. However, considering the amount of empty space, I assume we're missing at least a few things. And one of our quests is to place a missing part. Then we have to mark the stone with a motif of a raven chopping wood and mark the tree growing on a second floor. So we're gonna look around to find those things, but immediately what I'm noticing is that the piece we need to place is basically a mirrored version of this area on the existing map. So we might be looking at something that is fully mirrored, maybe, like similarly to that other map where we only had a half and it was mirrored, but now it might be actual like quarters. Well, let's look around and find out. Let's look around and figure out where we even are, right? Because are we on this marked bit? Are we off somewhere else? And where those other things might be. There are some towers, so hopefully there are also some landmarks to help us orient ourselves. We've got a tower here, but it's not a landmark. There's nothing inside. There is a mural, but they don't magically appear on our map. But behind the mural, we do get a landmark, so that is helpful. So we are here. Okay, so we're actually on the edge of the structure right now. There aren't any directions on the landmark. But if we can find this L-shaped area, that should help us orient ourselves. I'm already suspicious because on the map the landmark is on an edge, but here it's clearly not on our edge, unless we mean like this flank, for example, is the line of symmetry. So what we're seeing is like one side of this flank. Okay, let's see if this L shape is anywhere around here then. There are some gaps here. I'm gonna assume this time, yeah, the mapped out areas are the actual wooden platforms, and yes, there is an L shape here. So I think we're looking at this thing this way, and so therefore I'm currently facing north, and then on the other side we may have the same shapes but facing other way. So that's the landmark. We're going north, and then yes, this is another L-shaped channel, just mirrored out. Okay, so if that follows, potentially this other L shape is in an opposite corner then. So if we run across to the landmark, then we should be going past the tower and then going left, which would basically take us to where we started, near the pier. Yes, it looks like there is the same sort of L-shaped channel on this side. And going by the fact that we were running north, that shape would match. Okay, that's good. So from that, we should be able to mirror everything out using this, right? So if we measure that out, then flip our dividers. This is where this sort of recessed section would be. So we can mark it out with lines like this, just approximating with dividers the areas. So assuming everything is mirrored, this is the approximation of the north side of the island. And so the side we're looking for is then this mirrored into the west. I didn't put the L shape here, I just had the outlines. But that should mean if we take this line, therefore, as the line of symmetry between east and west, then we should be able to measure where this piece should go, because it basically starts here, right? This part is this part. So we can size the dividers of it, put it on this line on symmetry, and that will be approximately where that corner should land. The height might be slightly off. Like, let's see, if we use the other line of symmetry, we can see where the bottom of that L shape should be. So transfer it here. Oh no, that actually aligns quite well. So this should be a good guess. And there we go, which basically tells us where our pier should be on our map, in case that's important for any other reference points, because it will be alongside here. Now we're looking for a stone that shows a raven chopping wood. So if we start at the mural, face the tower, and then run towards the right side, which is actually southeast on the map, then there is a stone here in this corner. But that means it is placed in the section we don't have on the map, so we have to do some more mirroring to figure out where that would fall. Here we also don't have that L-shaped canal at all to help us see that way, because this feels more destroyed or more under construction. So the closest we have in terms of gaps in the construction is this inlet here, which would be reflected on this side, and this is basically part of it, right? Part of it is water, but then part of it is ground. But we can at least get this bottom line and this top line from where the boards are placed here. So looking from here, the stone would be just under that top line of this inlet. Get a nice long horizontal line, we can mark it out here, and then we can say where will that shape end on the opposite side of the map. And then the same for this side of it. I regret drawing the central line with paint because it does obscure the grid lines. But yes, that should get us this inner corner and the outer corner of the shape. So if we go to the stone, we should not forget we can place a flag and then stand on the other side. I added a board here because there's a hole with water and it makes me pass out the dirty water. But yes, I can stand on the edge here and measure to the flag, which is 10.5 steps. So I'm on this inner part here and then can do 10.5 steps. Now, it's not exactly on this corner, right? Because this corner is actually up here by like a step or so. So it's not exactly on this line. We will need to transfer it about a step down. We can return here to our default step measuring and see it's like 3/4 of a step below. So if we move this slightly down, that should be where this stone is. So let's get our marker on. And it landed perfectly. Great. Next is the tree on the upper floor. So there are a few places we can climb upstairs. And if we look around and across this hall in the middle, there is a tree in that building there. So we can run in. Looks like there's a hole in the wall. Oh, and it's actually growing through a cartoglyph, so that should help us advance our story as well, I presume. But we need to figure out where this tree is. Now, we don't have the plan of the second floor. And as far as I can tell, it's not exactly a replica of the bottom, right? Like if we look down an edge, there's still things below us. But if we go below and then look up, we can see that actually we can see all of the walls and the floors through this side. So which means we can still be working at the bottom floor to narrow it down, although it does end across here in this big pond of water that isn't even marked on the map because it shouldn't be here, right? This should have been a floor. But I think what's helpful here is this kind of middle channel, again, with the symmetry line, because that means we're really near it. Like if I go up again, if we look at where the tree is, there's a wall we can see from this side, and there's a room full of tomatoes, which by the way you can also see from downstairs. If I hop over through that window, I do end up in that middle channel. So the tree is just past the tomatoes, basically. So back down here, yeah, we can see the tomatoes through, and then the next room is the tree. Here, clearly the floor has collapsed, so we have to rebuild it. So 3 boards in, and I think we're under the tree here. So we can stick a flag to help us see this spot from further away and compare that. Yes, it is going to basically where the tree should be above us. So we can just about see that flag from the landmark at about 14.6 steps away. I have to be careful not to hit this beam in front. So 14.6, and we're near this line of symmetry here that runs north to south. So I think we can basically estimate like about half a step from the line where it will hit that arc, and that's where the tree is gonna be. Considering this line is also thick, it may be somewhere around here. Okay, got the perfect placement, but unfortunately that makes the camera freak out and either be in the tree or completely away from the tree. So we can just see inside of the other rooms, but it counts as 0 steps. It's good that you found the cartograph. Based on my research, I think the Raven King has hidden more maps around here. Right, what does the Cartoglyph have to say about this? Yes, there is indeed supposed to be a treasure hidden here. 22 steps from the tower and 14 steps from the wood-chopping raven. So, 22 steps from the tower, 14 steps from the wood-chopping raven. If we look from the tower to the mural, that's only 9.4 steps. So let's see. The tower is basically east of the landmark on the other side of the mural. I think there should be basically equidistant. So if we measure where the landmark is from the center, let me erase that so I can see the line fully and just draw that across. This should be where the tower is now. I have to say I haven't really used the stickers all that much, other than like the arrows and maybe the pier. So if we were to do 22 steps from the tower, we will need to clean up this other stuff so it's not getting in the way. It would be this big circle, and then 14 steps from the raven. The raven's there, and that's the steps. Okay, so the intersection is gonna be, well, 2 of them on the south side. 1 just below the line of symmetry over there, but that would put it in the water as far as I know, and we can't go in the water unless we can go on this rice paddy, and that's where we dig. No, no, I've already tried in the previous map, it doesn't work. Okay, which means it's the other one, which means it's somewhere here to the east of the raven. So let's see. If so, if it's on this line here, it should be about like, yeah, 1.5 step down below the raven, because obviously we're going down to this line. So yeah, we can go 1.5 step south from the raven. So it's gonna be like alongside this wall, and then we just have to, well, fully it's about 14 steps east from the raven, but we have to align with him. So okay, over here alongside this hall where maybe a window used to be, and we go 14 steps. Okay, so somewhere in this area, that looks a lot better for digging. There we go. It's a compass. Are we finally getting a compass so I can see where I'm pointing in the world? Well, before we get to that, or actually we're getting to that already because the compass is already working as I reloaded the map to look into the optional treasure. So yes, finally, we don't have to guess like where we're heading. The compass is here, but we've got an optional treasure to find. So, in one of the buildings on the second floor on the south side, we're basically approximately here, there is just an arrow pointing down with an X. So I think that might be just telling us go dig below it, assuming there's ground below here, right? Because we can't dig in the planks. Oh, but this is where we had the ground from the thing that wasn't fully constructed. So there might indeed be treasure here. It's a sticker of a stick. It's sticky. Now, the next clue, if once again we stand on the second floor and we face north, go through this tunnel here that serves as our line of symmetry, and then turn to the west. There is a house here. The doorway was blocked by a plank you can just deconstruct with your building tool. And then there is this marking here with an X. My best guess for that is that it's near the mural in the center, because if we were to fully draw this out, this would be a square with basically a line in the middle for the mural. So it's on one side of the mural. We're gonna go dig around and see if there's anything there. There we go. So it's on the tower side of the mural, basically on this edging section. And that should be everything in this level. Let's see the next one, because I presume they're gonna test us on how well we're going to use this compass. Oh my gosh, I think we broke Bite. I'm afraid so. The last time that happened was when there was a calculation error in our textbook. So how do we start her now? Maybe with a few flying lessons? Billy, didn't you just finish building the trampoline? So we can fly as high as the ravens. Yeah, sure, but I think Bite is more into animals than sports. How about some cattle then? I think I saw a fox around here somewhere. Great idea, Ruth. And perhaps the compass can show us the way. I don't know if Bite should cuddle with a fox. Don't worry about it. She's made of metal, after all. Right? So, on top of the compass, we also got a trampoline we can build, and we have to mark the fox then. Yes, definitely do not cuddle random foxes you see outside, but I guess robots are allowed. Oh, right as we come up here, there is a fox indeed, quite a big one. And there is the same burrow as we used for the rabbits. Not sure how this fox fits in here, but I'm gonna presume this is the burrow. I am immediately gonna place a flag on it so I can see it from further away. But also, let's give the trampoline a try. There we go. We can bounce. And I assume that then lets us glide further. Yes, I can already see some also like updrafts that we'll likely be able to use to fly further too. Yeah, we're soaring. Okay, there are various structures here, towers, bridges. So I'm sure we'll be getting into that in just a minute. But first, fox business. So the way the compass helps us here is that we will be able to get our heading directly, and then all we need is a distance and a heading to get where a point is on the map. This time we're back to having an island outline, but we just have to figure out where the pier is. Well, it's somewhere on the northeast side of the map, and actually that's quite a shape, kind of a mushroom shape to find. So yes, northeast, mushroomy shape, that's here. So we can mark it up. Now, this water is no longer terrible swamp water, so we're able to run around on it and not just die. But I see they're giving us planks again, so potentially still important. A house that's boarded up, so there might be secrets there. We will check those out later. So I'm gonna go forward to a place where I can see both the fox den and the pier and place a flag down here. Ideally aligning with the pier at some sort of nice compass heading. Okay, like northeast will have to do. And then the fox den is to the northwest of us. So place this here. Now if we go down to the pier, I guess we can place a flag here as well for better measuring experience. Especially that we have to match the edge of the islands rather than the pier. Now we get our telescope out and we can just about see that flag at 14.9 steps away. And yes, heading is north-northeast, which means from the pier we're looking west-southwest. So let's get on the edge here of the island, 14.9. Now, to get the heading, we basically place it on the compass rose. It's no longer crayon, right? Now they give us a proper one. And we turn it until it aligns with the right direction on this compass rose. So yes, now it's the correct size and the correct direction. We place it here, and this step should be basically where we're standing right now. So we can just draw a line to it. And then the Fog's Den flag is 7.6 steps away northwest of us. So we get a northwest direction and 7.6 steps. When we turn the dividers, they do extend the line, so we can see that it aligns with the point even if our measurement is short. Okay, and then if we just place that on the last line we made, we can now make those sort of multi-step measurements. Of course, it's still not going to be like pixel perfect, because we could have been like a pixel off on this measurement or here, right? But it lets us easily get around corners where previously we wouldn't have visibility. And especially that they don't even give us a grid line anymore, just leaving us out here in the open. Let's try and pin this Fog's Den down. And here it's perfect. So yeah, that was pretty good measuring. Right, how are you feeling? Wrong, 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 wrong. I don't understand the world anymore. Playing pranks is now considered right, and pointing out someone's mistakes is wrong. Well, it's not quite that simple. Not everything is black and white. Not every prank is right, but if it's harmless and no one got hurt, then it's not wrong either. Just look at the Raven people. They stole from each other. That definitely wasn't right. But it was a matter of survival, so it couldn't have been wrong either. Some things are just kind of gray area, like how we use the Raven King's lost treasures. Yes, but how about this? Once we found the big treasure, we'll take all the treasures to the museum so everyone can enjoy them. And who knows, maybe the researchers at the museum will find out even more. Would that be okay, Bite? I think so. Great, then please write on the map what we're looking for next. They're just having like existential crisis. Their worldview is getting adjusted as we're having this adventure. So what would you like us to find? Mark the circle of red mushrooms. Place the following house. Okay, we've got to find a house and figure out where it is on the map. And mark the tallest monument. Well, I guess that means it's time to explore this island beyond just this Fog's Den here. I see some mushrooms by that tree, but that's not a circle. That's just an arrangement. Yes, there's lots of paths between kind of taller hills, so it will definitely help that we can follow a compass. Ah, there we go. So the circle of mushrooms is here, and this path should connect us back, but it's blocked by boards, and those are not removable boards. So yeah, we're gonna have to trace the paths along the back here, basically using the same technique I was just using for the Fog's Den. So we can probably even use the Fog's Den as the starting point, right? If we place a flag here facing that tree, then we will be able to use the tree and so on to mark out the paths in those ridges here. So the only thing we want to make sure of is that when we look at the Fog's Den flag, we have a fairly nice compass direction, right? It's not like a weird fraction. At least it has sub-directions, not just for northeast and northwest, but it also has the further subdivision. So like north, northeast is an option as we are facing here. So yes, if we go south, southwest from the Fog's Den at 7.5 steps, that will give us our current position. We can place a flag on our head, because that lets us perfectly mark where we are. So 7.5 steps, but then we're going south-southwest. So that brings us to here. And then the tree is exactly west at 15.8 steps. So that will bring us out to here. Then we run around and find the next point. I guess we're gonna add a flag. Well, one flag could be this junction here. There's also some marking here, I assume, for treasure. But yes, the mushrooms are actually from this further junction here. So let's align ourselves nicely with the tree. Okay, it looks like nicely from here might not quite be an option, like I'm getting in between directions. So we can go to this previous junction, and here we can get a northeast to southwest heading at 7.5 steps. So if we stick a flag down here, 7.5 steps southwest, and then let's see if we can get a nice alignment. Now we can get south-southwest at 8.9 steps. So that's here. Let's get another flag in so we don't lose the spot. And then the mushrooms are straight to the east. So if we just pop out here and get a measurement to the flag, 6.8 to the east. So that should bring us around here, and that should be a good location to start trying the mushrooms. Okay, got the mushrooms down. So 1 down, 2 to go. As we were walking through, there were various other paths to the side, and they were going to the sort of gates and buildings. So I presumably, if we're looking for a house would be here. Now, an important thing to know about a house is going to be how large is this house, right? So let's do some measuring. Now we can be very precise with the measuring. So 3.6 steps by 1.8 steps. Well, there is one house here just kind of sitting there, so let's see what we get here. Yep, looking promising at 3.6. And then the other dimension, yeah, 1.8. So I guess this is the house. So now we just have to keep doing that thing with the paths and directions to get back into here. So we can stick a flag in the middle. We may have to readjust it later for like better heading. There is an exit to the east here, so let's see if it connects better with our... Okay, it connects with the tree, so that's nice. Because then we can run through here and measure to the tree to south-southeast. So the tree on our markings is on this first corner. I should probably record that with a marking so I know the reference. So if we align ourselves nicely on the compass, we can measure 5.4 steps, and we'll be going north-northwest from the tree. So out to here, flag again, so we know the spot. Now we can see the house from here, although not the flag I have placed. So let's go inside the house. Oh yes, because it goes into this corner. So we can come here and kind of go in as far as we can, although the wall is in the way. So some adjustments will be needed. I guess we because we're placing the house, we can place the corner of the house. So if we stick the flag here, it will literally be the south corner of the house. And then from our previous flag, we will be going 11.1 steps to the west. It is slightly off, but hopefully it will be okay. Probably want to avoid being off angle on the directions because the further you are, the bigger that error gets as the angle expands. But hopefully the south corner of the house should be landing around here. And there we have it. It's all good. We've measured it out. So the final one is mark the tallest monument. Now there is tall buildings. There is like towers on the mountains. So we definitely need to do some hopping around and seeing what's what and where. What's the tallest thing on this island. And I guess install some trampolines so we can get up there. Okay, so it looks like this monument with a pickaxe and a sickle is going to be it. It's on its own mountain peak above everything else, so I don't think anything will be higher up than that. But that means we've got some measuring to do, and now angles are definitely going to be a problem because we can measure 2 flags that are on the ground, but this is measuring across the height and distance, right? This isn't an accurate thing unless we're planning to start doing some Pythagoras where we're measuring down, although we can't look vertically down, so we wouldn't even get a accurate measure there. So potentially this tall building might help us out. There is also some secrets inside of it, because if we build ourselves some platforms so we can stand in the middle of it here. And we look upon the monument. At least the height difference isn't as huge here, right? And we can tell that it's about 9 steps from being here. And then we should be able to get that same point at the bottom of the building from the other references we have. And approximate it. So the monument is about 9 steps southwest from the building. Not exactly the center, like alongside this window here. So if we get down, there is a doorway. So I think approximately here will be the point we were standing at upstairs. And yeah, our building that we have placed already should be here. So that's our other reference point. By the way, we can only see that flag away from there. Okay, we need to do a couple extra steps there. So I got another flag placed here, which is to the south 2.9 steps from the corner of the house. So that's where we're standing here. And then the flag inside the building is 6.6 steps to west-southwest. So that will bring us over then. And then 9 steps southwest to the monument. So gives us this. I'll probably climb up there to see whether it resembles at all what I'm getting from those results. Okay, so if we look out here, yeah, it's not on the coast at all, but we can see beyond it. This coast here, then the various rocks, right? Like group of 2, group of 2, group of 2. So I'm gonna mark this spot here, but basically check if I was to extend this southwest line, it would hit the second of those 2 rocks. So if I look southwest from here, yes, I'm basically facing that second rock. And then if I were to look northwest, it should be hitting that rock there. Yeah, okay. It's looking fairly good. So it's just getting the exact location here to the 0 step marker. And that's the perfect location here. And that was it for the missions on this map, but of course the optional treasures are waiting. So unfortunately nothing in this house south of the pier. It looked promising, but that's not it. Well, I saw some other things that were clues. So one of them was when we went past the tree looking for the mushrooms. There is this marker here that says 7 and it has an X. So basically we're looking to do like 7 steps east-southeast to get that. So probably somewhere on this raised section then. We can just climb in here. So we're about 3 steps from the marker here. So we have to get on top or past this section. And there's actually like a ridge here. So it might be in this channel or it might be on one of those spots. Well, let's dig in this channel then and see if there is anything here. Indeed it is. It's a sticker of a trampoline. Now, another thing I saw was in the tall building. So it's showing us this sort of angular pattern. And then, okay, the houses and the little gates to the town. So potentially it's in this system of path where we were marking the mushrooms and the tree. So it's actually flipped upside down. Like we're looking north right now, but it actually would be facing south. So if I take a picture of it, put it on my map, I think it would be something like this, right? One of the gates is here near a tree, and then another gate is nearby the house here. So then it could be this path here. I think it continued past where we turned for the mushroom. So like basically the next turn afterwards. Let me take a look. So it's the path. We kept going here. And then we took a turn to the mushrooms, which would align with this. So actually, yes, at the mushrooms, there should be a 90-degree turn off that takes us to a corner. Yeah, and the treasure should be here. There we go. It's a sticker of another type of tree. And I think there's another one, but I have not even seen a glimpse of that clue, so we'll need to look around. So, from the mushrooms and the previous treasure, if I basically climb up on the hill above, going south, and then looking from the south edge, there is a sunken ship, and there's also some scribblings on this rock. And indeed, it's once again those angular paths and an X on them. So we have to return there. I wonder if it's basically the same place as on this picture, just this angle, because that would align. So let's get back in there. So that would be this junction here with this other clue. There we go. So they're quite close together here, and it's a sticker of a fox. So now we're done with this one. What is next on our adventure? Do you see what I see? The city of ravens. This is absolutely amazing. That's kinda neat. Huh, I'm going to rub this in all my classmates' faces. Quick, take a few photos. Milo's gone from super shy Raven City nerd to like, ha, I've been right all along, I'm gonna show them all. We really did it. You guys are awesome. We are awesome. Well, I didn't really contribute much. Billy, that's not true at all. Well, in any case, I'm sure we'll find a clue about the Raven King's treasure here. So, Milo, what are we looking for? I think we'll start with the city map again. Well, let's go into the city, which I assume is behind that wall we can see on the hill, and see about the map then. There is an updraft here, so we can fly up. There we go, on top of the wall. And we can see the city from here. Now, where's this map? Looks like it might be in the very center on the ground. So let's just glide down into there. And yes, that very much looks like a map. So that's what we want to mark up. But on our map, all we've got is the isle outline, including little Shrek here. They had a Shrek Easter egg in a different map. So I'm just like, more Shrek? So before we can get the map, we're gonna need to get the outer wall of the city marked up, and then it does look like this is basically in the center. So I think let's go back on the wall and see what points we can use to figure out where we are on this island. So there is the tower, and it's joined by the little bridges to basically the side of the circle. So we might be able to do some estimation here. So let's see where the tower base is. Can we figure out that location? It is placed on a rock, a bit of land, next to this very distinct island as well. So we should be able to find this on the map fairly easily. Yes. Okay, so this is the distinct island, and then the tower should be around here. Like the rock is jutting out, and then the tower is just beyond it. So I would say somewhere around here. So having marked that up, I'm back on the city wall to take additional measurements. Because then we stand here on the edge of the city wall. We can see the tower. It's exactly east from us, and it's at 19.1 steps. So we should be able to measure that out. So 19.1 steps, and then it's east to west, so align that on the compass. We were measuring from the outer walls, so rather than placing it in the center, we'll place it around here. And this should be basically the line marked by the bridge that goes to the tower. Like if we go further here, we can see that it runs above this bay, which would be what's marked in here. So that's step one, where we have this northernmost point of the wall. Now, if we walk along this edge, that basically goes south towards the city map, but not exactly above it. So we're gonna need to construct some extra bridges here in order to be aligned with the map center. So I think 4 pieces in does get us towards the center of the map. We can stick a flag here. So I think what helps to check whether we're over the center is checking that when we're aligned east to west, we're also facing this piece on the wall and then this tower, because they seem to be the other two directions kind of marking elements. So hopefully this flag is all good, and then we can go to our previous point where we were measuring to the tower and measure to the flag instead. So we are facing to the south, and that's 18.2 steps. So get that aligned, make sure it's perfectly north to south, and this line should get us over the city map. So let's mark it up and see. There we go. It's there. It's just again landed on the bridge because I'm using my extra construction to help me measure things at different levels. Wow, I don't even know where to start my research. I think I want to look at the fire pit first. No, or maybe the trapdoor leading to the warehouse basement instead. Actually, maybe we should take a look at the smallest hot spring. So, multiple quests, smallest hot spring, trapdoor leading to the warehouse basement, and a fire pit that actually comes with a picture. Because there is a fire pit here, but in this picture is one visible through like a doorway. I don't think this one, like, there is any way we can stand where, yeah, we see it through a doorway like this. This is the closest doorway, and that's not correct. However, when I was jumping up and down, I did see some hot springs, yeah, right here, where this updraft is. And I guess this one here is the smallest one. So because it's, once again, between the walls here, we may need some extra steps to be able to mark it up. Because the map itself is also walled in, and so putting a flag here probably would be barely visible from anywhere. But if I can get it on the wall around the map, I may be able to add some platforms to help me. So I can float down onto this wall here, and the map is here, and then the hot spring will be somewhere around there. So we can construct some bridge through here. That should get us to the center of the map, and then bridge towards this side, towards the hot springs. Now we're over the smallest hot spring, and stick a flag here for reference. So that is all marked up. The bridge is not exactly center, but that's fine. It doesn't matter like that. Okay, so we're slightly off the center of the city map, so just add another bridge here so we can get a little bit further. So right now under us should be where the center of the map is. So we can see that looking to the northeast at 10 steps is the flag for the small hot spring. So once again we calibrate our dividers, which have been super helpful getting us through this entire adventure, and mark that off the center of the map. I'm gonna go with the center that they've actually marked up for us rather than my previous line, since according to this my line was slightly off, and that should get us to this location. So hopefully this should be where the small hot spring is. There we go. Once again prevented the marker from hitting the objective, but the step count is good. I'm gonna leave a flag here to mark the map so that can be seen from further away. I have two stacked, so it's over the wall. I saw the fire pit when I was looking for more planks to build the bridges, so if we go to the west side and up the staircase here and then head south, it is near this tower on this side. We just have to go into those small buildings around it, and then yes, we get the fireplace as seen through this doorway. That matches the picture pretty well, but that means once again we're obstructed from seeing directly to the city map, our reference point, and we have to make ourselves a way to measure this. Now this adds a tower in the way as well, right? So it's not gonna be as easy as building some bridges and skipping through that. So let's put a flag on the top of the fireplace so we can see it above the wall, basically. Only so, but it still should be helpful. And then return to the map just to take a look at, well, the map itself, right? Because one thing we get from the map is also that the buildings are marked. So we can see the tower is this circle here, and then the buildings, the fireplaces is basically right there. I'm gonna put the flag there, but yes, I think this is the building with the fireplace. So if we stand in the middle of the map and align that, we can see that it should basically be straight south from where we are. And so we can maybe measure intermediate things alongside the south line and then add them up together to get to where the fireplace is. We could also try to do basically a scale where we measure the things on the map, like how far is it to the tower and how far is it to the real tower, and then use that to scale it up to where the fireplace is. But I'm not sure how accurate we're gonna be, like trying to measure from flag to flag on this map, considering like things like the flag thickness and the scale of the map. So I think I'm gonna go with measure how far it is between the intermediate steps to get there. Now, there is still more to do here, because even looking at the tower, the view is obstructed, right? We just get the outer wall here, and looking up is not accurate because of angles. So we may still have to do something like come out through here, heading southeast. And an interesting feature this town has, not only is the map in the middle circular and the outer wall is circular, it also has lines going through in a circular pattern as we head between the wall and the map, so that could also potentially help us measure out some distances. Although I didn't see those on the upper floor where the fireplace is, so I'm not sure how helpful that will be for finding the fireplace exactly. But we can align ourselves here so that the center of the map is exactly to northwest, and then the center of the tower is to the west. Stick some flags in for easier measurements. So now we can tell that we're currently 7.7 steps to the southeast from the center of the map, and then the tower is 2.9 steps west from us. So we can mark that out on our map. So this takes us to where we're standing, and then 2.9 west takes us to where the tower is. And we can also get the radius of the tower being 0.9 steps, so we can fully mark it out on our map. There we go. Looks good. So that's step one. Now we need to climb upstairs, and from here we can go and try and stand at the south side of the tower facing the fireplace to try to measure the extra distance. Just some quick bridge building. So if we stand in this spot and we face south, we can see the fireplace in front of us, or at least the flag that's on top of it. And we can measure that it's 3.6 steps away from us. So we already have the dividers aligned, so we just need to make it at 3.6 steps from the bottom edge of the tower. And that should take us to where the fireplace is. So let's get our guesses in. There we go. Not exactly on the flag, but it still counts as perfect placement. So we only have the trapdoor in the warehouse basement remaining. Now, that's quite a description. There are no signs here to say, hey, it's the warehouse and it's the trapdoor. But while I was running around, there is a room behind this south tower that does kind of look like a warehouse with lots of like materials, tools, all that stuff basically stored, which you would do at a warehouse. So that might be what we're looking for. There is a staircase that goes down here with like a sealed entrance, or there is this thing here that I mean, it's a black pit, but so is the other entrance to upstairs, so it could indicate that this is a further place to go. This is the top side of the stairs, so it looks like the same as the smaller hall in the warehouse as well, just bigger. And it says it's a trapdoor leading to the warehouse basement, which would imply it's something inside of the warehouse itself going further down rather than the entrance to the warehouse. So potentially it's this, but if not, then it's just this entrance here. Well, this is where we get this circular pattern that runs all along the city. And so even though this is inside of a building, we can run alongside, and we can once again get to a place where we are aligned with the city map center. And we can measure that the radius of the circle is 10.1 steps. And we're once again south-southeast of the city map. So that whole circle that runs along the city is about this. Apparently it also runs through the Hotspring. So we probably could have used that to narrow it down, but bridges worked, so I'm not going to question it. And then we just have to work out where along this circle this point is. If we keep running alongside it, we get to the next staircase and we get to the next point where we can see the city map and can confirm it's still 10.1 steps, right? So it is centered or then. And here we're facing east. So we can mark out that this here is where we're currently standing. And then if we extend this line, it will be where we were standing through that other door. So they're not actually even like 90 degrees from each other. So that means we can run along this circle and see how far the trapdoor is from each of those points we viewed the city map from. So from this side, it's 9 3/4, and then to the other side, it's about the same. Obviously, it's not gonna be exactly accurate when I stop running, but it looks therefore like we're gonna be basically in the middle of this arc that we've marked out by seeing where we can see the center. So we can measure out the straight line between those 2 points. It's 60.5 steps. And so half of that would be 825. So we're gonna have to settle at 8.2. And then we can go from the center through that line and to the outside circle. And that should give us the middle of this arc and where that door should hopefully be. So let's mark that up and drop this pin. There we go. So when it's something we didn't construct, the pin is able to get through the ceiling into the building to mark it, but it won't go through my bridge. So this does it. According to the cartoglyph, the last of the Raven King's tools are hidden here. To find it, you have to place a flag in the center of the city. Only then will its shadow show you where to dig. Okay, well, I already placed a flag in the center of the city because I assume they mean the city map, because then it would make sense that there will be a shadow cast, but I mean to destroy the upper flag to avoid any confusion. And yes, we can see the shadow pointing onto that building there, onto like the inner part of it. So do we just run in and dig on this floor? Do we run in, like, dig on the upper part? Looks like it's just the bottom floor. And we get what I think is a sextant, which is a classic navigation tool. Just as we expected. You found the last tool. You're incredible. Billy. Now, let's see how well you can use a sextant. Mark the peak of the highest mountain and the center of the crater. Tool is unlocked. Your telescope is now a sextant. You can now measure distances while accounting for height differences. Yes, so this finally solves the problem that I've had with the telescope so far, which is that if you look up, it doesn't tell you the distance you were going to be measuring on the map. It just tells you how far that point is up in the air. But now it measures based on the angle as well. It tells us the elevation and it tells us all that because math is great. And so we're gonna use this to mark the peak of the highest mountain and the center of a crater because that would be a good use of those newfound powers. So the highest mountain, I presume over there to the southwest. Crater, well, we're gonna have to climb something to see any potential craters. So let's get on that mountain first. Well, let's get out of town first, because it does seem like all of the entrances are blocked, so we have to be using our powers to climb all around. There are some updrafts here, so let's get up there. So there's a peak here over the town towers, but it's definitely smaller than this other peak over there. So we need to glide over here. Climb all the way up. Okay, it has like a tiny little mound on the top as well. So when we stand here, what can we see with our telescope? Because Oh, actually, we can't see the center of the town from here. But we can see that flag I sneakily placed in the air above it. So that tells us that 29.5 steps from here to the center of the town. So that gives us a big arc. I didn't check my heading. Okay, it's like northeast, but not quite. Because I would have to move to the side, but then I'm no longer on the peak. I'm not sure how much space we get in terms of does this whole platform count as the peak or is there a specific point. But we can return to our old tricks because we can see some islands from here. This island over there to the northwest is gonna be this one here. Like if we look at the tip, okay, that's 48.3, probably too far. Yeah, we only have 42 max distance on our dividers, so we can get to this island at 38.1. So like if we just settle on a corner, 38.1, it should be somewhere here. It does show it having a bay, but it looks like it's more like a cave and then there's a cover on top. I wonder if there's anything in the cave. Well, let's try it with this then. 38.1 from the corner. Mark that out. Now, because the island is basically the west of us, it means it's gonna be this intersection rather than this intersection. Any other good spots just so that we can get a full measurement? I think the crater might be over there. But any other visible spots seem to be quite a bit too far. Actually, the south tower is visible here at around 23.6. I didn't put a flag in the center, so that may actually just add further noise to the data rather than help. Yeah, so 23.6. I mean, yeah, it does kind of align over here and over here. So we're definitely in the right area, and I think I more trust the island measurements rather than the tower measurements because I don't know which spot exactly in the tower I was hitting. So let's start over here and see where we are for this highest mountain peak. There we go. That was actually really good. So I am super happy with our new tool because that makes everything so much easier. I no longer have to build all the bridges. Just point and get the number. And now, yes, the crater I think there is one of those Florence lava things. I haven't really been doing them because they're just like a platforming challenge rather than anything to be doing with maps. I'm not even sure where we're supposed to be going from here. Just glide over somewhere, maybe I will see the end. Like, I think the two sticks basically point towards where the end location is, but then you just have to find it. Oh, actually, I think it's over there on that hill, but that means we would need to hit the second updraft first. Yeah, so we can get to that height and then land on it. There we go. I actually managed it. That's quite a fun one, because like some of the other ones at the start is like, oh, you have to jump on the little rock and then on this little branch, and I mean, I'm sure some people enjoy that kind of stuff a lot more than I do. I'm just here to use my tools to draw arcs and lines and be like, yeah, I got the spot. Anyway, so the crater, we can see it right there. Yes, I assume that's gonna be the center. So we want to align ourselves nicely so we can see it at a good direction, right? Like a southeast rather than like in between some spots. So we're nicely northwest of it, so it's the southeast of us. And now, what can we see to the other side? We can see the flag I put at the center of the town. So that's 35.5, although not perfectly aligned. We're just off the southeast line. So let's get another arc going. 35.5. Southeast, so somewhere here. This tree here is very inconvenient because it's obscuring the other tower. I should have left a flag on the mountain peak, maybe that would have helped, although it's quite far. Like, we can still try to approximate it on the compass rose if we point it at the southeast and then slightly more to the east. But then I would not super trust this to be the most accurate measurement. because that would put us at around here. Just gonna mark it with the highlighter, so it's an approximate area. And from here it's 12.7. Well, southeast exactly, but I would assume our previous heading is correct. So potentially somewhere here. Is there a better spot for it? It is Shrek Island. It has little eyes and a face. Well, I went and left a flag on the highest peak, and now we can say that it's 39.1 to the west of us. And we can kind of get a view onto the center. Actually, we can definitely measure to it because this branch is way closer, and I guess it's not actually obstructing our view. So it's about 12.8 towards the east-southeast. Again, not perfect, but it will get the approximation get better. So 39.1 to the east of the mountain peak says we're down here where we're standing now. And then 12.8 east-southeast would get us to around here. We can also see the flag at the center of the town at 35.9 northwest, so we can add that. So that should confirm our location better. So it looks pretty good. So hopefully this crater is therefore in this location or thereabouts. There we go. Good enough, though it would have been more pleasing if that marker landed on this little rock, but this counts as the exact location. Well, that was it for the quest on this map, but we have 4 treasures to find here. So we're gonna start with the fireplace, because if we land in this room and then look to the next room, there is another one of those arrow down to the X. So we just gonna hop down below and dig for treasure, and we get treasure. Fireplace. Next one, I saw it while examining the map. There is an X here, but digging here, not treasure. However, because we are on the map and we already had the quest of like, oh, if you go to where the shadow is pointing and all that stuff, this might just be dig this direction. Where would that be on the map? So we have to go outside of the town wall and see something we could dig at. So let's head into this direction, over the wall, and see what we can see. Okay, so we're on the wall, that should be the point. If we look over, there is just a little bit of land under us and then some islands. And the X was a bit further away from the edge of the map, so I would say it's probably on one of those islands. And then we have it. A sticker of a purple flower. So on the map, this is actually here on this island, on this section. Now let's have a look for the next clue. So if we return from the hot springs and then float up, there is this little building here that is basically above the hot spring area. And if we go in here, there is this drawing behind the bench showing like a pillar section and with an X under one of them. And there is those supports that we were extending in order to get the center of the town. So potentially it's buried under this bridge. Yeah, there we go. Another of the statues. So one more left to go. I wanted to check out this cave underneath this island I was previously using for measuring, to see if there's anything here, but apparently the water in it is too deep to stand in, so looks like there's nothing here for us to find or see. No treasure here. So I've not been finding any drawings to go by for treasures, but I wonder if there's an alternative hint, like previously we were finding just X's made out of sticks. There are those 2 circles here. They're basically right next to the west towers on the edge of the city. And you can basically stand in a way where if you look through both of them, they form an X and basically pointing at a point in the city. So I wonder if I glide down over there, I'm gonna find anything. There's a lot of buildings here, so it requires quite a lot of running around checking everything, and not much else has appeared. So yeah, we can't dig in the rocks. But we can dig over here. And we get a little ladybug sticker. And that should be all the treasures in this location. So we go to what I think is the final map of the game. Purely because there doesn't seem to be much more room on this board. I mean, they could fit something over here, I guess. But we were getting close to the Raven King's treasure. So let's see if we find it here. Is that what I think it is? The treasure island. It really did bring us here. We all did. Billy, you are a big part of it. Oh dear, I don't know. You've done all the work. You're so good at everything you do. Whatever is cartography, the Raven folk, or translations. I'm not really good at anything. Billy, that's not true at all. Rue's right. I might not always understand when something is a little wrong, but not entirely wrong. But now I'm sure you're wrong. There you go. You built the whole raft all by yourself. You always make sure we're all doing well. You hold us together, just like the Raven King held the different Raven tribes together. Do you really think so? Yes. Thanks, guys. That really means a lot to me. Then let's go find the treasure together. There better be treasure and not some sort of... The real treasure was the friendship we found along the way, because I've been working hard here. I want my treasure. So what we have to do here... Well, first of all, there's barely anything on this map. Place the island in the right spot. Oh, okay, there is nothing on this map. This is just the thing we have to place. We have to place this island as well. And we have to place this island as well. Okay, so we get an empty map and 3 pieces of land to put somewhere. The true cartography challenge. So we're gonna climb some places, see where we are, the shape of things, and understand how we can possibly place those pieces of land in. There is a landmark, so we can at least get some sort of point of reference on our map so that we know where we're placing things, right? Otherwise we wouldn't even know where the boundaries are. Okay, so the landmark is here in the middle, so we get the middle of the map. And then there is the big Raven King statue, so we should definitely visit that. Let's climb up there. Should be a good lookout spot as well. It's a big divider tool. Basically one of the most useful things in this game. It's more murals. Yes, they ruled through the power of cartography, and that's how they became king. So we're the next Ravenfolk king. We're gonna get crowned. There is a big tower. I mean, few towers, that's for sure. So they should make nice reference points, especially that we can now use the sextant and we don't have to worry about height differences. Climbed on the head just to get a better lookout point, but also clues here as well for later. So let's see. What shapes of land do we have? There's 2 smaller collected islands. We can't see all the 3 things all at once. So we have to view them in separation. This sort of U-shaped thing should be hopefully fairly easy to find. And this island shape, maybe. Let's try this one. Where is this U-shape? Of course, we have to account for the fact that the Raven King statue is also probably on a piece of land. Yeah, so it could be counting towards a piece of land we need to place. But it does look rather round, and none of those things are round like that, so it might just not be one of the things we're placing right now. Okay, so I think I found the U-bend shape. It's basically to the southwest of the Raven King, on the other side of the map. And if we look towards there, which is more or less when the landmark is, we know that it should be therefore towards the northwest, somewhere here, right? We'll need to make the measurements. So if we climb onto the island itself, we're basically in this corner here. We can just about see the landmark, but it's obscured by the tower, so I may start like putting stacked up flags there, so as to give myself better visibility. So one flag is on the landmark itself, and then we can add a bridge and then stick another flag vertically on top here, which could be pretty good. And hopefully we will be able to see that better from over there. Okay, so now we can stand in this corner, get our sextant out, and see we're 29.2 steps away, but the direction is so-so. We can get closer to the east-southeast at 29.6. I think it's more towards this point of the island. So 29.6 and east-southeast. I mean, east-southeast to the landmark, so north-northwest to where we are, but obviously the direction is the same. It's just this side of the map, which we already knew. So if we stick that in the center of the landmark, then this island corner should be around here. So of course there are options here to find more points of reference, as we were doing previously with placing land, to make sure it's extremely well aligned before we even try to place it. But hopefully between the sextant, the compass and all that, we can get quite close with just a single measurement. Because it's two islands, it's actually measuring a spot in the water rather than where we were standing arbitrarily. But this is it. This is apparently the spot. Hey, that's one island here. Hopefully that will mean we now get extra spots to help us measure things. So next, let's check out, are those islands here something that we need to place? I mean, hopefully we'll be placing most of this land so we can find our way around. But yes, there are two islands close to each other. How big is this gap? About 6-7 steps. So the thing we have to place, there are two islands with gaps between them. But as we're looking at the gap, it is northwest of us, meaning this gap would make sense. This gap would not. So if it's anything, it's this one. And actually, if we look here at the very west ends of the island, they have those kind of two rounded shapes next to each other. And that would align with what we see here. So hopefully those should be our islands. And they're actually just southeast of what we already placed. So we just have to figure out where exactly. We can get a good view of the landmark here as well. So we just have to find a spot that we want to use. Now, additional problem with those ones is that they're not even the full land. We're just getting like the southwest edges of them, but not the ones that are close to the landmark. So we need to find a good reference point. Now, this tree, obviously it's not on the map, but it runs above this little corner of a stone below, which I'm pretty sure is this point on the map here. So maybe it helps us orient ourselves, although I'm not getting very good compass direction that it will be easy to recreate, because we're like halfway between northeast and north-northeast. But there aren't many better reference points, so let's give it a try. We're not 19 steps, halfway between 2 points. So 19 from the landmark, between southwest and then halfway towards the west. So around this. So that should give us the point this corner is at. Okay, well, this wasn't the easiest thing to place in terms of compass direction, but it should give us at least the approximate location. So it's a good point to start trying from. And here it is, actually in the right spot. Once again, the water is the point they measure to. So now we've got this. Like, this should be sensible to find, right? And we know that it will have to be somewhere in this northeast area, considering everything else we've seen. So presumably this land near the statue would make sense. So looking from the top, I was getting a bit confused because while it has this sort of right triangular shape for this island, I wasn't seeing this section of the land in front of it, but I think it's another sneaky one, because if we jump this way, there is actually a cave that goes through that is covered at the top with rocks, and as we've already learned, that means on the map it will appear as if there is break in the land, even though from the top it looks like one whole piece. And so now that makes more sense for that shape, because it leaves this back island to be this triangle that we see on our map. But so that means at some point where we cross to the area where the towers are, we're once again on a land that's not on the map at all. Because I was hoping from this shape, maybe, oh, the towers are here and it would be easier, but no such luck. Now for added difficulty, that means we don't have any of the features of the front of the island on this bit we need to place, and from the back island that is fully drawn on the bit we need to place, we can't see the landmark at all. We can see our pier, but the piece of land our pier is on is also not on the map, but maybe we can do something with it. Right, because we have this nice little outcropping before going into the cave, and this is basically this spot in the corner. So we may be able to do like a two-step measurements between the pier and the landmark if we just go around that side. So here we're gonna find a spot that it's nicely aligned in terms of direction with the landmark flag and with the flag I just placed in that corner. So I can stand here nearby the pier and the landmark. And then the landmark is 17.6 steps to the northwest of me. So we can get that spot on the map. So this should be where I'm currently standing. But then the other flag is not quite directionally aligned. But if I keep moving along that line on my compass, I should be able to readjust it and still be able to tell where I am in relation to the 2 points. Okay, so now that flag is to the northeast from me at 32.3 steps. But I need to remeasure the steps to the landmark. It's now at 25.8. So we can go and just extend that line. So that's my new updated position. And then 32.3. Let's get it aligned. And so that says that this corner should be somewhere around here. That's now confirmed, this time on the land for once. There's also a little fox living here. So what's next? Because obviously that's not the treasure yet. Okay, now just put the rest of the pieces together. Oh, so yeah, we just get extra pieces. 2 extra pieces that we need to add in order for the map to be complete. Well, this looks like the spot the landmark is. But if I just try to align its center with the landmark, it sort of weirdly overlaps the rest of the islands. So there's probably some discrepancy here that we need to correct. Well, this should be the island our pier is on, so we can use that as some sort of reference. So if we're on this pier island at the top here, basically in this section, we are to the southeast from the flag at 21.6 steps. So if we put that on the landmark, that will take us to here, and then we align the map over us. Okay, so this should be the position, and it actually seems to make sense in terms of the join on the map. So maybe we didn't even need to measure. Maybe we were just like, yeah, it's a jigsaw puzzle now. But let's try this position and see. And we're here. 1 more piece then. Yeah, presumably it fits here with the rest of the map. So it's the question of, do I measure it or do I just risk it? Let's risk it. Let's see. Yes, apparently playing a jigsaw piece also works. And now I'm on full 3 stars on all the islands. Everything is perfect. That's absolutely amazing. You really did it. You put the whole map together. You are amazing. You are. I think we have everything now. Let's dig up the treasure. Find the Raven King's treasure using your map. Well, I mean, what I was spying on this map already is that there are dots. There are blue dots, there are red dots, and presumably if we connect the dots that are arranged in a way that where the lines would cross each other, we will get a big nice X, and there will be treasure here on this island, which is just over there near that tower basically. That should do it. So let's see what the treasure is and what we'll be able to do with it. Dig here, near the tower, near the mushroom. There we go. It's a key. The Raven King's gate has opened. So now treasure, right? The key wasn't the real treasure. The key was just the key. Let's see what awaits us inside of this giant statue. We're gonna be crowned the king of cartography. I'm sure of it. It's real treasure! Which belongs in a museum. The Raven King crown. It goes on our head, of course, because we're the queen of cartography. The rest of them just get to be in a picture with us, because we're cool like this. So, that's the game, not quite everything, because we need to return, probably, and find some optional treasures. I presume there are some on this island. Well, before we get to the treasures, actually this unlocks a new tool. The scepter. You can now select a target in the build menu and place your own targets. So that adds something to our toolbox, where basically we can now freeform mark where we want to find something and try to hit it with our marker. We can use this on any map, presumably. This is just the map I'm on right now. So if you somehow don't have enough of the game, want to continue going, you can set your own challenges. Now, treasures. We saw one of the clues already on the Raven King's crown, and it basically seemed to be saying that between those two towers somewhere, a treasure should be hidden. So I think this is some sort of perspective puzzle where we need to align the towers with that view, and then X marks the spot. So it would be somewhere like near the landmark island, and towards those islands that eventually lead to the pier. There we go. Took me a few tries to hit the right spot. And also this is empty. I think I got this fishy sticker, because I haven't seen it before, so I think it just got out of the bag. Off to find the next clue. So near the tower that is to the west of the pier. There were two of those boards here that we can recycle for building bridges, and behind them there's a clue that seems to show either a specific coast shape or a cave. Potentially this could be this. So let's have a look there, because that's the section that's under this overhang here. So I didn't find treasure, but I found another clue on the overhang. And that actually matches specifically with this piece of land here, which means there is a treasure somewhere here. So we should go look into that, and I'll get back to that other clue in a minute. So I think somewhere on this little green piece, like if we look out, this is the corner I was measuring from earlier, and this is this piece on the map. So this would align with, yeah, the area we need to dig in. Once again, not working, but it gave us a sticker of a raft. For that previous clue, there is this cave I was previously talking about it being the hidden divide in the land. And if we look at it, it kind of matches with like the stripy side here and it pointing to the inside of something. So maybe there's a treasure buried somewhere alongside here. There we go. Presumably another sticker that didn't work. Yes, a Raven King statue. And so there is one more. So on the West Island, where we previously found the key to the Raven King's vault, if we go inside the tower, we get this little structure here, and there is X marks the spot. So I think what it's trying to tell us is basically if we were to lay this tower down that direction, there would be a treasure down there somewhere. So specifically it would be to like the north, northwest, almost north from here direction. And presumably on this other island as well. Because if we use our sextant, although we have to move quite a bit away so we can look up that high, we can see that this tower is, well, around 19 steps tall right now. We don't know how much of it is broken. And like, you know, approximately I'm at the same height. So basically going some, like, there isn't much land here. So at 19 steps, like if we measure from here, we're at 12, right? So we're basically running out of room here. So it has to be somewhere around this corner. And there it is. So don't even really need to measure, just go in the direction and we're there. So that's all the stickers as well. And the final one is this yellow flower. And that means I've got them all. So got all my treasures, got the crown, got the scepter, got crown, the true queen or cartography. And that will be a wrap for Map. I have truly enjoyed the mechanics of this game. Like, it's really fun to do all of the measuring out, seeing where we are, noticing the various details of the map, working out how to use the tools to be able to find all of those spots in the map. The story is okay, although it is basically children going on an adventure and yes, finding friendship and happiness, so it wasn't anything groundbreaking there. But it was cute. It was fun, so I'm not complaining about it. Definitely really good job from the devs. Hopefully we will see more from them. Maybe they can make some other cute puzzle games, or maybe they want to do more with maps. Either way, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. And if you did, consider liking or subscribing. Thank you to channel members for supporting the channel. And I will see you soon on another adventure.